Hello and welcome to the Crackdown. I guess Thorin didn't get the 30 seconds out.
It's all right.
I prepped Larson with the 30 seconds out.
Yeah, I know.
I entered it, not him.
Wait, how did you do it?
Fair.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's fine. We'll just fucking cut it here and call it the start of the show. Anyways.
To be fair, Dom, sometimes on some of those early episodes, it just starts like halfway through, like fucking 5 minutes into the show. So, it doesn't always go smooth. I'm just saying. Yeah,
that was before I had my editor know the tech of like recording it beforehand, because the VOD gets muted like a portion in for DMCA and shit. So, yeah, we got
I don't know if you saw this, but like about an hour or so ago, I released the first 2 parts in this big series I've done, which is going to be like trying to find who is the like greatest player of all time from Western League of Legends. And so, because that's like, I just wanted to say a little thing about that, because it's actually so underwhelming to me that in this community, where you know this, Dom, in the analysis and content creation community, people are so egotistical and haughty, and they attack each other over tweets. Like they make themselves sound like they're like a tenured professor in an ivory tower, and anyone else commenting on a draft or a player is a moron who knows nothing. But where are all these people making videos like this? Like the only people who make the videos like this are the really like mainstream fuckers. The whole point is they just don't know the magnitude of it. So they'll be like, 10 players ever, and it'll be rubbish, right? I want to see the really sick people make their top 10 or top 20 and give me all the reasons. So in this series I did, right, I tried to do that. So the reason why it's 3 parts is because like I literally show you like who should even be on a list, like rough candidates. Then I do like, here's all the reasons. I literally go, you'll see in part 2, like I give like 7 different categories or something. I break them all down with a grade and numbers, explain my reason. And the third part that comes tomorrow, I basically just combine it into what would be like a score esports type list, but a good one, where it's like a proper overview and like you explain how sick the player is. It's all with all B-roll and footage. I'll just say though at the end of all this though, you didn't make a list, Dom. You know what? It was tight, you know. And also last thing, you're probably never going to be on the list as long as you stay rogue. I'm just saying, listen, I'm just being real at the beginning of the episode. I'm just being real. You've got to get championships, babe. We've got to stack those chips. So now that we've done that, you see the way I did that? Like I made it seem like I was making a really serious point, and it was just abuse and banter at the end. So go on.
Well, I mean, like honestly, that sounds like a lot of work. If it was me making one of those, it would just be a 10-minute video, and it'd be like, who is the greatest Western player of all time? And it would just be perks in one word. Completely black screen, perks in one word, and then that would just be 10 minutes of that, and I would just, monetize it, fucking sell those ads on YouTube, and just fucking... And
then you just explaining why, like, Doublelift doesn't make the list because he entered you, like, intentionally in a game, like, season 6 or something, like...
I mean, I would just show Perks' accomplishments next to Doublelift's accomplishments. I'm like, oh, so you won NALCS a bunch of times, and Perks is somebody who's actually making, like, international difference. It's like, get out of group stage, we'll talk about you on the list. How about that? But anyways, this is going to be Larson's episode of the Crackdown, episode 22. Larson, obviously mid laner of Team Rogue. He actually, I was reading this. Apparently, you finished school in spring. You had offers to compete in LEC as early as spring 2019, but you decided to finish school. So I guess I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. I mean, obviously, esports is so big now. Most people, if they get the opportunity to play in LEC or LCS, they're just going to take it immediately. How did you feel like confident enough to just finish school, or like why did you not want to jump straight into it when you started getting LEC offers?
I mean, it was really hard. I was like thinking about it for a month or even more. It was like so hard, but in the end, I just went with my gut feeling. I just went to stay in school because I only had a half year left. So I thought, if I only have a half year left and I finish it, then I can focus on League 100%, right? But if I jump off school and then I have a half a year left, I kind of have it in the back of my mind all the time that I still need to finish school. So I thought it would be nice to just finish school, get over with, and then fight for a spot in LEC. Obviously.
The thing is, though, like I don't know if you know this, Dom, but in most of those Nordic countries, like Sweden, obviously, back in the day in 1.6 in CS, people did used to quit school if they were like 50 and they were really good at the game, even though there was way less money. But that is also, I think, because, unfortunately, as cynical as this sounds, like they have like a mad social safety net there where you can just get like welfare or whatever if you don't make it. So it's like, in a way, it's not like you're not gambling your whole life. You can also just go back to school as well.
Oh, it's not like the United States where our president just doesn't care about our citizens? Oh, that's interesting. I can't imagine
to be
that.
fair, I'd argue people probably don't care about citizens in any country, but not in that particular way, though. You know, everyone has their own flavors. You know, in the same way as in Netherlands, we just only have paprika flavor crisps. So
yeah, interesting. So how is the schooling actually working? Because you're only so at the time when you started competing, you're 20 now, but you're 19 at the time. How exactly does the educational system work? Like where you had like half a year? Is there like because I know in some places there's like you go to high school and then there's like a small bit of like college that's like 1 or 2 years.
That's after that, mainly.
Yeah, and then
as far as I know, isn't it in Sweden? Isn't it something like? Isn't it called something like gymnasium if you do it after normal school or something? Isn't that it? Isn't that your version of college, right?
Yeah. I mean, you have 9 years of like normal school, and then it's like 3 years of gymnasium, as you call it, until you're 19. And then you choose like if you want to keep studying or not, basically.
Damn.
I mean,
by the way,
gymnasium, but yeah.
Don't get confused by that name, Dom. It isn't literally like PE.
Of course.
It really is just like a weird. It's because if people don't know, that apparently is like one of the ancient. I think that's what like the Spartans used to call it when they would train you like as a man and as a warrior and stuff. So that's why it's called that or whatever. Also, one thing that's mad weird. If anyone wants to just laugh at Sweden for 1 minute, because you know what, it's a pretty cool place, so we can laugh for 1 minute. Just look up what they dress up as when they graduate from high school. Right? When we graduate from high school, Dom, we just go in our normal clothes and get the grades and go home. They dress up in this, all I'll say, it's like, I'm trying to be careful my words here. It's just, it's like a silly sailor outfit. Like they put like a little cap on, and so they're like a captain of a ship or something. You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's so nice. I like it.
All right, fair enough.
I'm gonna
wait for that way.
I'm gonna have to fucking.
But it's so weird, no? If you study for your whole life and then you finish it and you have normal clothes, like you should, of course, you should.
Yeah, I get you.
A nice
ritual.
Well, you see what the Americans do with like the whole gown and like the hat and everything. So.
No, but that's for college. I mean, he means just for high school.
We did
high school. You put the little.
We do
that for gymnasium.
Oh, right. If you graduate, do you do that? Oh, fair enough. Okay, I didn't know that.
I mean, when I never graduated college. I was in the same spot as Larson, where I had half a year left, but I was just like, nah, this like I have the opportunity right now. Like, who knows what's gonna happen?
That's what most people do, right?
Yep.
I mean, honestly, when I think about it, kind of stupid for me to finish half year, because in Sweden it's like really easy to finish it anyway later.
Mm-hmm. All right, you can just go back and do the last 6 months.
It worked that good for me, right? But it's not something I would recommend. Like if you get LSE offer, it's so big, right? LSE is like so big. Yeah. So it's worth to take it, I would say.
You know, that reminds me, Tom. Obviously, you used to be teammates with Voyboy, right? And if everyone remembers, this is one of those things that's got lost as a narrative, actually. When Voyboy was a pro, even right up to the end of him being a pro, everyone used to just never shut up about, he was going to be a doctor. Like, he was studying to be a doctor at a really big college. And he used to always say on stream, like, you know what, guys? I might go back one day. And it's like, will you fuck, mate? The amount you're making of streaming right now, play video games, just spamming like Katarina versus like Masters players. There's no universe you're going back to. Medical schools, like that nightmare stuff where you just do like 14-hour days and you're just super stressed, like, the test, it's an 8-hour test. Like, there's no way. That was one of those ones where I think he was just in denial that esports was going to be a thing or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was a really weird situation. I loved a lot of the narratives that came from that, because when I started playing with Voyboy, he was obviously like 16, 17 years old, and he was in IB, which is like the International Baccalaureate program, is like a very intense like program in high school. That just requires a lot of work. It's even like more work than like AP, which is our other like testing system where you get like credit for college classes. The IB program is super, super intensive. And people would always be like, oh, like, I wonder what Dignitas is doing. They're in the lab. Like, we can't find like any of their fucking practice accounts or like where they're fucking playing. Like, what are they coming up with? And in reality, we just weren't practicing because like one of our players just had school all the fucking time.
That's pretty good. Yeah. They thought you were all the secret Smurfs or whatever.
Yeah, no, they thought we were like the fucking geniuses of the world, just like in the labs, like testing like small mechanics of the game, like trying to figure out synergies. It was so dumb back in the day.
I'll tell you just a random anecdote, because people might appreciate if they like esports history, right? So obviously the game that was the number one esports game before League of Legends, we're talking like a year before, was StarCraft 2. In fact, it even had like overlap with early League of Legends. And in that game, it's funny that it's like so like frowned upon in theory to play on Smurfs. Like, people want you to play on your real accounts to know who you are. Because in Korean StarCraft 2, it was default that like the entire Korean ladder was barcodes, where you put like the weird things, so you can't really tell just by sight who someone is. And you had to sort of like either know that guy's practice partner to get him to grasp up who it was, or you had to just guess by his playing style. And so what's sick is, right, there was a really famous player who played for Team Liquid, who was a Western player from Germany called TLO. And he wasn't that good a player, right? But he was thought of himself as like a cerebral player. And he told me a story in an interview where him and his brother, when they were going to play the best player in the world, this guy called MVP, who was like a GSL champion, they were going to play him, right, in a tournament. So they thought, right, well, he won't be looking at like our VODs. He won't be expecting us. So what we'll do is I've found his barcode account, his secret account, and we're just going to watch every game on there. And they said they literally watched something mental, like, 500 or 1,000 replays. And they were calculating all the builds he does and everything. And apparently this is real. They got his real account. But then in the actual match that they played, he just didn't do any of the things he ever did in those games. And he actually just wrecked him anyway. And it was like, it's one of the only times ever where, like, you won it. The story should end like, and he won the game. And so that's, kids, why you study and you prepare. But it's actually just wasted his time completely. Like, he must have spent hours doing that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I guess we should start jumping into into Larsen's career here. In LEC, obviously you joined
10 minutes, right? So
yeah.
After that, do some questions or something.
Yeah, I mean, LEC started in summer of 2019 for you, and you were joining Rogue, and at the time, Rogue was, I think, dead last the previous split. If not, they were like down there.
I think they were dead last. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were dead last. So when you were joining a team like that, and obviously you had a bunch of rookies on your team, like the team beforehand with like EQ and all that, ended up pretty much failing miserably. So when you joined that team with a bunch of rookies, like, how did you think it was going to go from the start? Were you nervous to join like a team that had been doing so poorly in LEC, or did you think that like, oh, we're actually going to be pretty good? Because I know your Ultra Liga team was pretty successful.
I mean, it was completely a new team, right? Like we were gonna play with the academy team in LEC, right? So I was not nervous because I had played with these guys for a long time. Anyway, and we scrimmed some LEC teams during the spring, and it went pretty well. So I was not really nervous. Nothing. Yeah.
Did they, when you were in Rogue, right, one of the things that they've often been praised for, unlike the obvious contrast is Misfits, your team is one of the ones that actively has shown that not only, this is the second part that people don't get, not only the first part, they will promote people if they play well in the Ultra League and the Academy squad, but even more so, if you lose your job like Woolite, they'll put you back on that team as well. It's like you can be in Rogue and know, like, right, I can have a career for a while. They're not just going to throw me to one side like the aforementioned Misfits. Does that mean, though, before you were in the LEC team, did they ever like work you into scrims for the main team? Did you ever get to like replace one of their players or anything like that and play proper teams?
If I got to play in the main team during the spring?
Yeah, did they ever like just sub you in for a game or two to give you a chance or something?
No, I never played because I was just focusing on school and focusing on our academy team. Because we basically, the LEC team went really bad, like really early. So they weren't going to make playoffs, right? So we might as well just focus on the academy team and try to make us win EU Masters, even though that failed miserably.
That didn't work, unfortunately,
yeah. But let's say they were close to playoffs. Maybe I would have like played some LEC games already in the spring. But we basically just focused on our academy team since main team was looking pretty rough. So they didn't want to split us up because we were going to play in summer, right? Very likely.
Yes, sure.
A lot of us. So they didn't want to split our team up because it was basically like preparation for summer as well for our team.
By the way, just because obviously I don't think we're going to talk about EU Masters very much. On that topic, I've noticed, I only started following EU Masters I actually watched the first one where it was like the one that like Forgiven and then
Origin.
Yeah, just because it was the classic one where it was like there was another reason to be interested. But like I never really paid attention to it until I started to do my European talk show. And one thing I've noticed that's really bizarre is, right, obviously if people don't know, EU Masters just takes the top teams from all the national leagues and puts them in a big like group stage into a bracket. And it basically is like worlds for national league teams or something, right? So what's cool is a lot of people now are starting to watch it because they know how many of the players who come from good EU Masters teams make it to LEC. But actually the thing I've found really weird is even though a lot of these teams might be champions of a league that might even be overall as good as the whole EU Masters, it seems like the top seeds that come into the EU Masters never win it, dude. Like a lot of times they don't even make the final. Like, what do you think it is about the tournament that makes it so difficult?
I mean, for first, it's best. When I played, it was best 3 games in group stage. So, well, if you had a lucky games, maybe lost 2 games, then you were out because you only had one round robin or whatever you say, like 3 games. So it was kind of scary, the group stage.
Yeah.
And Also, it was best of threes in the playoffs until finals, I think. So that makes it more chance for upsets, right?
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing is that like teams that are like second in the league, like teams that have lost the finals to the top team, end up like normally outperforming them. Like not only that the top teams fail, or like top teams of certain regions fail. I think that it's so weird that it's like, okay, so for example, that Misfits team that ended up winning with Leader on it and Obsessed, like they didn't win their league. LDLC, I'm pretty sure, was second in their league. This time around.
This most recent EU Masters, I'm not joking, the two teams in the final weren't even like top 4 teams to make it like and win the tournament. Like they were both, as I know, outsiders.
Yeah, I thought the same. Actually, it's true. It's like every Masters, it's really random teams that make to the final.
That's why it's funny that first one where they had Forgotten and Forgiven and all those famous people.
Second one as well. Second one. Mad Lions won the second one.
Oh, yes, of course.
I met them in the finals. But they almost went out in the semifinals against ESG with No Way For You and Boreki.
Holy shit.
Like 5K, they were 5K down in game 3, I think. But then Selfmade stole Nash and they came back. So, yeah.
It's weird the way that story ended there, Dom. The story wasn't like, but then Nemesis just carried the whole game, and when MVP, and then Selfmade just stole the Nashes, so they won the game.
I mean, all right, we'll get into this. Thorin loves to shit on Nemesis. We all know this.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay, so Thorin loves to shit on Nemesis. Not a fan of his playstyle, etc. Nemesis has actually been getting a decent amount of hate right now for Fnatic's losses. He had like
hit.
Oh yeah, if you look at Reddit,
he's super popular as a player though.
No, on Reddit he is getting blasted for his performances.
Like, this might sound weird, but I actually think, just to be serious for a second, I actually think part of why he might get negative comments though is because LS himself is a very polarizing figure, and now he has just really closely associated his brand with LS. So that also means, if you think about it, when he does things in the game, like people disagree with a pick or his itemization, they're gonna, if they don't like LS, they'll take it out on him in a way. So in a mad way, it can be good for his career. It's definitely good to work with content creators because you can get your side of the story out there. It's a way you don't have to come on our shows and take abuse from us. But in that scenario, I actually think that might be why people go against him. Because listen, LS in his way is popular. He's super niche, obviously, but there's a lot of people on Reddit hate LS as well. It's still crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's partly that, but then he's also the mid laner for Fnatic. When you're the mid laner of Fnatic, you're compared to just all the fucking greats. So
that's true.
It's super hard for you to succeed in that environment. But I just wanted to know, Larson, what is your opinion on Nemesis right now? He had some weird TF games. He had that one where he just walked into the pit and just into the whole game for no reason. I think it was against Mad Lions. So do you think that he is somebody that you consider a top 3 mid? I assume that you consider Cap's really good. Everyone's saying that you're up there. Who else do you consider really good, and what's your opinion of Nemesis?
I wouldn't consider him top 3 mid, I think, but I mean, he's a good player, right? He's definitely not
better than you
or anything. No, I mean, that maybe you want to bait me to say something, but...
No, I'm just asking you your opinion, so go ahead and give me it. Listen, here's the way this show's going to work. It's going to be really easy. I just ask a question, and there's no gun off the camera that is going to shoot you if you don't answer. So you just answer whatever you want, mate. If you want, you could just answer, when you answered that really rubbish, answer that Froggen question at AMA where you didn't even think about it. So if you want, or make it interesting, that'd be fun too. It's going anywhere. So what do you think? I'm not baiting you. If you say yes, you must believe it. If you say no, then you have to give props to a player who's obviously not that good. But that's up to you. That can be
I would say I'm better than him, right? That's what I think.
Okay.
That's what the community thinks
most
too.
Mids in the league. But I haven't shown myself. Haven't been to Worlds. Haven't.
That's true. Yeah, sure. So he's got better accomplishments. I
can't be too cocky or anything. Nemesis has played against G2 in the finals and almost won against them. Went to Worlds. And yeah. But as an individual, I think I'm better than him, right? But otherwise, up there, I would say it's Caps, Humanoid, that I respect the most.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense. I mean, Humanoid obviously
Featherman didn't make the list? Wait a minute. Has he done something to you, Larson? Has he pissed you off? Has he said you trash or something? Where's his name?
Well, I don't know what he said on a show here, but I mean... Yeah.
Are you better than...
It's not in my top 3, right? So.
Are you better than Featherman?
Yeah, I would say so.
Just individually, I mean. Just individually.
I would say so as well, yeah.
Fair enough. Just checking where you're at. Just checking how confident you are.
Yeah. I mean,
awkward, isn't it? We're sorry, we'll read it back in. We'll open him up. You have to understand he's Swedish, so he's going to present that like icy exterior. But then what will happen is we'll show him the human connection between us, and then gradually we'll melt that ice.
Well, I guess the reason why Forbidden has been getting so much like praise was I mean we had Perks on our show, and Perks was saying that he thought that Forbidden was really good last split. Like he was like, damn, this guy is like super underrated. Did you think last split like he was anything special, or have you had this opinion that like maybe he was getting carried by Razork or something, or they were just playing through mid a lot with the 2v2? Like,
I mean, they for sure play around mid a lot, right? Razork plays a lot around mid, and Forbidden likes to play real aggressive. He always wants to be aggressive, which is also not always a good thing, right? Because it's kind of telegraphed what they want to do. I know they always want to gank mid. And when we play against them, Razork did some really crazy ganks mid. Because, I mean, I know he always wants to gank mid, right? But on the other note, I mean, Forbidden played way better last split than I expected him to. I think last year he was playing pretty bad, like mechanically. But this last split he played pretty like good mechanically. And he had a lot of good games on stage, even though I think Misfits kind of overperformed during the spring. They had like the 8-7 game win streak.
Definitely.
Because they didn't look that strong to me, but then they had a crazy win streak. But
did nothing,
including beating G2, But I mean, yeah, of course it's an overperformance. I mean, they were coming in. Everyone had them like 10th on their tier lists coming in as a team. Like no one was excited about that team. Even the rookie teams like Mad Lions, for example, were getting some hype. People were like, oh, maybe they could be 6th, maybe they could be 7th. Obviously, they overperformed too, but absolutely no one was on board with Misfits, especially considering the roster they had previously just had, where they have Gorilla and Soaz and all these players.
I kind of thought Misfits would be like one of the worst teams in the league, or like bottom 2 teams or something, bottom 3. But I mean, they played pretty well, like especially on stage.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they kind of collapsed towards the end. I think they started off really strong, and then as the season went on, they got figured out. And once people were like, "Oh, so Razork is just gonna sit mid for the entire fucking series or the entire fucking game," then people started being able to adapt to that, and they just took a lot of losses towards the end.
I think Razork also just like smurfed a couple of games in a way that he didn't later on in the season. Like the difference is at the time, the 2 players who popped off like that was him and Shadow, and the difference is Shadow looks legit. Like he continued doing it like most games after that. Razork just had a few games he went really hamming.
Yeah, I would say
the Echo game against G2, right, where he got a lot of fame.
Yep. Yeah, it's an Echo game, and then he just looked like really good. Even in a couple of his Sejuani games, it was just like okay, like
I remember.
Yeah, he was playing significantly better than his opponent. His pathing I actually really liked, because a lot of times you can kind of understand where a jungler is going to be, where a jungler is going to be based on like where they start and how like what order their camps are coming up, etc. And he would just do like more Korean style jungling, where it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at lanes, I just know what like timings are vulnerable, and I'm just going to hit those timings regardless of like what camps I have up, etc. So that was nice to watch from him, and I think he definitely deserved rookie of the split. Last split. But I guess if we're talking about last split, one thing I want to transition into is obviously your team, because you had a really strong performance in summer of 2019, and coming into 2020, everyone just thought you guys were going to really explode and be like one of the top teams, because you're already top 4, and people just thought, hey, like if this rookie team is top 4, if they get more coaching, they have more time to gel, more time to improve, they're more comfortable in LEC, they're going to have a much better performance in spring. But it didn't really go like that. So from your perspective, like, what hindered Rogue's improvement? I mean, now you guys look like you're back on track in summer, but like, why did you guys not like elevate your level that much from summer to spring of 2019 to 2020?
Honestly, I think we're on a pretty good track during the split. We won against all teams besides the top 3 teams. Also, we lost against Mad when I played Soraka, and we were like 5k gold ahead, and we threw it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But before the online play, we had like the best week of practice. We were like doing really well. But then the online came, and the coronavirus 1 week got cancelled. And when the online came, it's like we lost our whole team. Like, so we lost motivation, I felt like, and we didn't play well anymore. Mm-hmm. But before that, before Corona came, I would say that we're playing pretty well. It's just that we lost against the top 3 teams.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's actually surprising to hear, because I mean, when you think about a rookie team, you would or like a young team, you'd expect that the online play would actually benefit them more than these teams that have a bunch of veterans that are used to playing on stage. Like, why do you think your team was different in that regard?
I'm not sure. It just felt weird to play online for everyone. It's like just a bit of motivation disappeared, I think, from a lot of people, and yeah.
I've heard that some of the players said the part of the issue is like, listen, there's a way that playing online can make it better. Like, for example, maybe the superstar player isn't as, it doesn't have the psychological edge and all that sort. There's a lot of like intangibles. But some players, even some of the rookies, told me it's kind of like that thing. You know this, Dom, because Team Liquid was famously one of the first teams to get apartments for players, as well as have like a place you could play, and then also have gone back in the past and had team houses, etc. So people who told me the reason why they did that is because like it's also different, like psychologically, if you feel like you're in your workspace and if you're in your home area as well. So I'm sure playing from like the same place you just practice at home is weird for the pro games, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, you get a really different feeling. We're in the studio, so. But that's something you need to adjust to, right? We adjusted really badly the first weeks, but now we're used to it, and we have like different methods before the game that makes us more ready for the game. Because I think in the week 8 and 9, when online came, we just like sat our computers and then we just played the game, kind of.
I've got one other thing to ask actually about the online factor, right? We always complain on this show about how bad NA pros have it because they have like the servers literally thousands of miles away from where they play, like in the LCS, etc., which is obviously causing them to have high ping. But I tell you what, no one mentions it a lot on talk shows. I don't know if it's like supposed to be a secret or something, but all my experience with Berlin internet, specifically Berlin, like Cologne's were better. Berlin internet has a really bad reputation for like drops or like issues with the thing. Like when you played online, was the game all smooth? Was it consistent ping?
Yeah, I mean, the ping is working good. We have 2 internets though, so when one is lagging, we switch to the other one.
There we go.
But I mean, in general, there's not too many lags, at least not for us, but it depends where you are, I guess.
Okay.
Also, yeah, I mean, whenever lags comes, I'm like really used to it. Because at my home, I was always lagging so much when I was playing from home. So yeah, so it's like a blessing playing from here.
so it's comforting when lagging comes. You actually think that it would just be an
comfort
advantage?
zone, yeah.
Okay. So
to be fair though, maybe I'm just thinking of when people told me that the H2K house had that lag, which to be fair, the H2K house
I've heard
under a bridge or something,
I've heard the same thing about Berlin internet. Almost every LEC pro that I've talked to has just talked about how shit it is, that it drops randomly.
For us, it's not that bad really. Like it's not. Maybe it's a meme. I think it might be a meme.
Well,
of
even
course,
like
Berlin internet is not that good, right? But I don't think it's that bad, like people say.
Well, I think that a lot of people have had problems just even like getting internet to their places. Like it's like I've heard stories of LEC teams where it's like, oh, like I couldn't go to the gaming house because it was like there was 2 weeks that it took to get the internet even installed in my gaming house, which is like completely foreign to me. But I mean, I guess Berlin is just a different animal. I mean, what I'm getting from this is if we can get other LEC teams to lag while playing Rogue and both teams are lagging at the same time, then Larson is just going to take over every game.
Then I'm going to smurf you.
Yeah, okay, good. That's exactly what I like to hear. So a couple of your teammates, like I would like to like just talk about community perceptions and like how you see them. One of the players that I think we've been pretty critical of is Fint, as we call him sometimes. So his champion pool seems kind of limited. Like,
did you know he plays Kled, Dom? I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
At this point in time, Finn playing Kled is the new like Kerp. Did you know he has a trackball? It's like, yeah, the commentators never stop saying it every single game. Like, please, mercy. And I feel like that Gooby meme. That's like D-Man or someone busting in. Like, he plays with the trackball. Like, please, no, D-Man, not again. I know about the trackball. We know about Kled. It's not even in the meta. Stop saying it, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, but like, so last split, his set looked really in a lot of the games. He just seems like Aatrox and Kled has been like mainly what he's going on. Is there a reason that you guys play like that, or are those just his most comfortable champions? Like, why do you guys always seem to go back to like those 2 champions, like Aatrox, Kled, etc.?
We haven't played Aatrox or Kled a single game this split, right?
Yeah, this split, no, but like I'm just talking historically.
Well, Aatrox has been really strong for the past year, right? So it's not too weird since it's been a top pick for everyone. Like Bwipo one-tricked it during the summer last year. And
sure.
Wunder played a lot. Alfaro played a lot, right? So
yeah, but there's like
Kled has always been good in Aatrox, right? So when people picked Aatrox, we picked Kled. So I guess that's why it happened.
Okay.
But he definitely does not have a small champion pool. It's before he did. But
what else is he good on?
What is good on? I mean, everything.
Yeah. No. Yeah, just what's he good on though? Just a couple that come to mind. What comes to mind quickly?
Kled?
Irelia.
Irelia, okay. Right. Is that in the meta at the moment?
I don't know
he's good on all meta champions. Okay. Yeah. Like Mordekaiser, GP, Ornn, everything.
Did you remove the game versus Schalke at the end? I think it was week 9 last split from your memory? You know, the Aurelia versus Jax where IWDominate. Yeah.
Yeah, what game?
I mean, he's really good in Aurelia, but we had some unlucky Aurelia games on stage. So.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
When, Lord, when?
Yeah, I don't know how to...
Soon he will pop off for Aurelia on stage.
Oh, there we go. Right.
I believe it.
I mean, usually he makes so many montages on Aurelia, but on stage it's really different than scrims and solo queue, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Aurelia is definitely a pop-off champion like that. I mean, the one thing about like the Aatrox is historically it's had so many counters, right? Like you obviously mentioned Kled as a counter. People think Renekton is a counter, Camille is a counter, Fiora is a counter. Like the list goes on and on and on. That champion seems super counterable. Why do we see it so much like blinded if it supposedly has like 50 fucking counters?
Isn't even Ornn supposed to be good for most matchups, Sarah?
Well, why Aatrox is blinded?
Yeah. If it has so many counters, theoretically.
But it's like, it has been blinded a lot, right? Because it's not like he has counters, he has soft counters, right? We thought Kled is kind of hard counter because Finn is one-trick Kled and it's a good matchup. But otherwise, it never really had any hard counter, did it? It's like, you can pick Fiora and only win split push against him, but you can't teamfight.
Sure.
I mean,
by the way, just to protect Larson a second, so he doesn't sound silly. Just to translate, obviously, when he says one trick, he just means Finn is really good on Kled. Like that doesn't counter everything he said before, where he sort of struggled.
He was a one trick before, like.
He was. Yeah, sure. My bad.
Yeah.
He was a one trick. Yes, of course.
So once a one trick for a one trick, it's like Hansi's Draven one trick.
No, listen, mate. I think Finn's a good player, but he's like that flying saucer meme. I want to believe, but I've never seen a flying saucer. So until it comes out the sky, I'll just have to keep hoping.
Yeah, I actually believe Finn is a good player based on like just like his standard aggressive. Like for example, the way I view players is if they're like aggressive and they die, I give them more points than if they're just like sitting under their turret like a Rome and then they just are getting their ass beat. You know, like just for me as a player and just like I remember if you're at least like going for things, then I can like understand like if they look like viable plays and there's like small mechanical misplays in it, like if I can get on board with the idea, then I'll give them credit. And Finn's the type of player where he'll like int aggressively, you know, like he'll take a fight that he can't win, he'll die, and you know, you can see where it can go well. So it's like, hey, if you just shore that up, you'll be able to like win your lane, etc. So I do have some faith in Finn.
Sure. I've got a question for you then, Dom. Oh, sorry, you were going to...
I was just going to transition to Inspired because, like, Inspired is a player that obviously was like super good in summer of last year. Like, he was pretty much like to use terminology, he was like an Olaf one trick. Where if
does anyone have any champions in this team?
One trick, like so many tricks.
Yeah, but I mean it in just the sense of like if Olaf was ever up, it felt like you guys would just take it. Build Warrior Olaf, where a lot of people weren't even on the Olaf. Like for me, I didn't know about Warrior Olaf until I started watching Rogue, and then it was like, okay, Inspired just plays this shit every fucking game, and he just pops off regardless. Olaf wasn't even that much in the meta, but it seemed like, from my perspective, in 2019 he had like a better synergy with Finn. Like in 2020 spring, it felt like there was like a lot of like top dives that were weird, or just like there was just like a lack of synergy between the two players. Did you feel personally like there was something that devolved between them? Because like at first I've considered them like very, very strong top 2v2, but it became like a little bit sketchy last split from my perspective.
I wouldn't say anything changed. I guess you have that view, but I don't have that view.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what about this? Here's the way you do it, Larson. Listen, I've done a lot of interviews in my time, mate. Do you have any like theory as to why people got that perception that like Inspired was just good on a few champions and just good in one particular way? Like what aren't we seeing? Like when you described there that Finn in scrims is really good on a really easy there. Like is there something we're not seeing about Inspired or how he works in the team?
But definitely last summer split 1 year ago, he had a really good Olaf games, but the rest of the games weren't as good, right? So it's understandable that people think he's Olaf one trick because his best games were on the champ, right?
Okay. Is he good at communicating as a jungler?
Yeah, he is, definitely. I mean, he has his way of playing the game, and yeah.
Tom, I have a question for you. Like
Sure.
when you said there that you give like extra points basically to like the aggressive player who goes for the players, even if they messed them up, as opposed to like put it this way, the obvious contrast would be like you would favour a Demonte over Golden Glue, even if actually at the time, you know, they might have the same overall grade as a player, right? Because the point is, Golden Glue, like unless you literally give him like god tier mechanics, that style's probably never going to be the best. Whereas Demonte, like he could win games even when he's not the best player. What do you actually think of Larson then? Because this is the thing that basically Larson didn't know when he did that AMA, where to be fair, the person did just say something like Thorin said you are like Froggen. They didn't give any reasons or anything. So when he said no, he essentially meant like, well, no, I play like assassins and stuff like, and but I meant it in the sense of like, more of like a controlled style. Like you're not just going for mad out players all the time. You're not doing for super risky players all the time. Also, I'll have to say you don't roam a million times all over the map like some of the super aggressive players do. So what do you actually think in that sense of Larson, Dom? Because wouldn't he fit more in the category of like a little bit safer as a player?
I mean, I think he's definitely on like the safer end. Like when you compare, like, so for example, if I'm looking at like top 3 mids, the person I'm comparing Larson to is Caps, right? And Cap, like I can't see Larson TPing bottom level 3 like Caps does like almost every fucking game or whatever. Yeah. It's like leaving the lane down early, but I feel like he has enough like actual control over mid lane where it's like you get enough dominance, you get the pressure out of it. And I view it more about like where the pressure is coming from. Yeah, like I care more about the pressure than the actual like whatever is considered aggressive, like going for kills. So if you're able to play like something like obviously Larson plays a lot of Corki. You know, we're not going to talk about the summer 2020 Corki playoff game, but just in general, I didn't know if I was watching a wild. I don't know if I was watching a wild daddy or what during that, but you know, like, it was some other shit. But I think that when you're playing certain types of champions, like you have to play to like their win conditions. So, if you're playing a Corki game, I'm not expecting Larson to be fucking like roaming all over the map, and I think it just comes down to like champion pools and things like that and what's actually strong right now. And in this current meta, I don't believe that like roaming is super overpowered or anything. Like when you think of all like the top mid laners, the only mid laner I guess in the West that I see really heavily roaming, I think would be Niski. I think Niski is like
go to the jungler, sure. Yeah,
I mean he's always leaving his lane, and I think that's viable, but on Rogue, I don't think that style would work. So even if Larson would be capable of doing that, I don't think that would work as well, because I mean you have to have your team completely in synergy for that to be an effective strategy. So I mean I'm pretty high on Larson. Like I said, I consider him top 3.
Right, Larson, what do you think about that? Because you even said earlier in the call actually that like sometimes like being like too aggressive isn't always like the best move. Basically, like we say, obviously fans like it's very easy to understand that the guy thinks he has skills, he's going for crazy play. Like, what is your perception on that? Like the style of play that you choose?
I think some players always want to be aggressive, but let's say we're playing through our bot lane, then it's really bad if I die randomly on mid because I'm weak side, right? Mm-hmm. So I shouldn't just play aggressive like mindlessly. Because I can sabotage my team. Mm-hmm. But if I play for me and I have my team with me, I will play aggressive. Like I don't like to die completely randomly when I shouldn't. When it's like,
oh, of course.
If I get this wave, nothing will happen, and I just die randomly. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's just different mentality, though, isn't it? Though, because like put it this way, I always felt like Caps, and in fact, actually, if you watch in Korea, like Naguri does this as well, like as a top laner. Some players, because they are like playmakers and they like to be aggressive at times, it's almost like fighters. They almost want to like get hit by a couple of times. Like, yeah, that's right. Come on, right? I'm in the game now. Yes, that's it. And then they go ham, and then they go pop off completely. But like, some people don't like to just ease into the game. I've noticed.
At least the option of that. I was talking about somebody with this yesterday. It was like Blippo. I think Blippo is actually like because you can choose to like die profitably at certain times. Yes. I feel like Blippo, like obviously he does have some like horrendous ints. Like when he was playing against Wonder in finals and he just dies twice in like a tank versus tank matchup. It's like, okay, you probably just ruined the game for your team. But there are times where I think he ints very profitably. Like when I look at Blippo as a player, I'm like, okay, he understands like what he's dying for. Like he's making a conscious decision like, hey, I'm going to walk to this wave and I know I'm going to get dove and I'm going to try to clear the wave so we get tempo on the other side of the map, and then I'm going to like try to take like one person with me. And that's the type of shit that I can respect. So
I don't know if you remember, but I think he even said when he came on this show something like that like sometimes you have to go for it where even like you're not basically the lower percentage you're doing it, just so that like, for example, then you can get the gank off easily next time if the guy kills you or the wave's in a better state. So like to him, he said basically, I think he gave it an example of where like a fan will always be wrong because they'll be like, you idiot, like why didn't you just go there? The jungler's in the bush. It's like, you can't just not ever go forwards as a top laner sometimes. Like, you just lose the game automatically, don't you?
Well, I guess
so like when we sit under the tower.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'd like
sometimes you just need to flip it.
Yeah, of course. So the one thing that I wanted to ask you about, Larson, is like obviously, so like you're saying, like when you're playing weak side, you obviously want not to not die. The way that Bippo was explaining it was when he sees like weak side, he thinks you can still play like obviously on weak side, you're under like the veil of like this is weak side, right? So you're obviously not going to try to play super aggressive and kill yourself, but you can like take more aggressive options when you are weak side. Do you just personally feel like those aren't worth it? Like if, for example, I think that like Caps or somebody would take more aggressive options weak side, like go for like certain types of trades where it's like, oh, like there's a chance that you now like get caught and die because you know the jungler is like around you. Like how do you view it as like, hey? I'm weak, so I should just not die.
It depends on situation, right? But let's say you're a top lane and you're trading sides, and you think you can get the top wave, which will delay enemy team tempo by so much. It's a good flip, right? But in mid lane, it's very different because you don't really trade sides. It's often like bot lane, top lane trading sides. And let's say Bwipo gets the wave top while his team is pushing bot. That's a massive win for him, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of different in top lane, I think.
Yeah, sure. For when you look at somebody like Caps, who I'm referencing, because I assume that is like who in EU is considered the best mid. Like from your perspective, do you consider Caps to be like the top mid, or like your best competition? Sure. Okay, so
was he better than Perks though when he played mid?
It's a good question.
I think Caps is better, yeah. But the
I would have thought Perks would be more in your wheelhouse though. He's a little bit more like you, a little bit more controlled, right?
Yeah, but Caps has definitely grown into a more controlled player.
True.
Let's say compare Finn. Finn is quite wild, but he's growing into a more controlled player, right? And Caps started off the same. Caps was really crazy when he started, but he's definitely...
He doesn't int as much now for sure, yeah.
Now he's very like smart about the game. He doesn't do any stupid ints that much, really.
Yeah.
I think it's of an old meme, kind of.
Yeah, so, I mean, regardless of the fact that Caps is becoming more controlled, he's still super active on the map. Do you think that that's just mainly, like, how G2 plays? Like, or do you think that that's something specific to, like, Caps, or is that something that you want to incorporate to your gameplay? Like, do you watch, like, G2 games and you're like, shit, like if they, like, asking for TP, like, you assume that he's asking for TP wards bottom and he's looking to TP to, like, bot lane, like, level 4, level 5, etc. Like he did in Worlds last year. He did it in the first couple weeks of LEC. Like, do you see that and want to emulate it at all, or like how do you view Caps? Like, what do you think is his main strength?
He's definitely very good at roaming, right? He's knows when he can roam, and he's very creative. What does that mean? Something I try to do as well. Wait, what do you mean?
What do you mean exactly by like creative? Like what?
I mean, sometimes he will leave his mid wave and make sure that enemy bot doesn't get a big wave, for example, which is worth. Let's say if he's playing Galio or Zoe, you're not gonna carry the late game that hard, right? So you want your team to get ahead. So it depends a lot on champions. If I play Galio, I will look to roam a lot and impact the game earlier. But if I'm playing like Orianna or Azir, it's way harder to impact the game, and it's really important to get resources if you're playing Orianna or Azir, because if you fall behind, you're going to be quite useless. But Galio will always have utility, for example. So it just depends what champs you're playing, to be honest.
Interesting. I mean, I guess the thing that I would say about that is it seems like even when Caps is playing like the more controlled champions, like maybe not Azir or Corki specifically, but even like things like Syndra that are kind of like in the middle there, where it's like obviously
Syndra is really strong early. So
yeah. I mean, Syndra's obviously.
No, I know what you mean.
Of course, you should always look for players, right? If you're playing Corki and you can roam top and dive top, or you can TP top and dive top, you should always look for it. But it's usually harder on those champs than, for example, Galio.
Yeah, if you have package and you have an opportunity to dive the fountain.
I played Corki against Vitality and a Dove enemy top lane level 3, so it's like depends, right?
Yeah. Pretty sure, Dom, I know what you mean. Like, if I look at normal mid laners, even though, yes, champion specific, you might do it, etc. I think more than anyone, I agree. It feels to me like Caps roams way more. That's why I'm actually amazed that he can make those like calculations in his brain. That's why I compare him to High in that way. Somehow he can just know that when he gives up like a whole wave, 2 waves, that like it's going to be worth it at the end. Like sometimes, like that's just a massive gamble. If you miss time when you go, or the wave state's not right when you get there, like I feel like you have to really be in the zone. You have to read the matrix to do that. So I'm amazed at how well he does it.
Yeah,
I mean that's what G2 is really good at.
Sure.
The whole team is really good. Like Wunder is super good at it. He knows when to leave his lane and to go roam. It's same with Perks. He's super smart about the game. I mean they're so smart about how to move around the map. So.
Yeah, no, I mean just so far the split. I mean, how many? Like I think it's maybe 2 or 3 times they've dove top in the first 3-4 levels of the game. They just build a wave and then. As soon as the wave is built, you just have Caps and Yankos just behind the turret diving level 3 when the person's full health. Like I think that's probably what makes them most scary. When you see a team as good as G2, what exactly is like your plan of attack? Like how do you view like, hey, how are we going to beat these guys later on in the season? Like how do we win a title? Like does it seem almost impossible? Like do you have like any type of like hope for that, or are you just trying to? Are you trying to just make worlds? Like what's the mentality?
Well, obviously, I think we can beat anyone. That's the goal for an end split. But the biggest goal is obviously to reach Worlds. That's the end goal. If we reach Worlds, we will be kind of happy. But I also believe that we can beat any team. I don't think any team is like unbeatable or anything. Last year, I would say that it wasn't possible to beat G2 for us. But now I would not say so. now I think we can beat anyone, even though we're not maybe favorable against G2, for example.
That point we were talking about there, like about how good, like, yeah, as a whole team, G2 is at knowing like wave management basically, and like using it to set up a play, or knowing when you, like famously where they knew like you didn't have to go for all those dragons at Worlds in ridiculous fashion, just give every single one up and still beat the Koreans, right? When they do that sort of thing, is that something that you like? Do you think that that means that they are like heavily coached on that stuff? Because I know a lot of the coaches I talk to privately say there are like pro players and pro teams even who have terrible concepts of wave management. They just don't understand it as players or as a team. Like, is that something you think like do coaches have to drill you a lot to learn that stuff?
I mean, as a team you need to talk about it a lot, I think, to understand it really. But these players have so much experience, so I think I don't think it's like grabs coaching them how to play the map. It's just by themselves in the game. There's no when what is best when.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
for us who don't have that much experience and are not as good at it as G2, it's more about looking at how they do it. And so we need for sure to watch other teams more and learn more than they do.
Mm-hmm. How exactly is your coaching staff like helping you improve in Rogue? Because that was one of the places where there was a lot of criticism levied at your team. Because I mean, just naturally, if you have a team of rookies that comes in and does really well, and then the next split they don't do as well. Like, so I think you guys were fourth in summer, and then last split you were fifth. People just immediately look at the coaching staff and was like, hey, these guys are talented and they didn't improve, must be the coach's fault. Like, do you think there's any like validity to that? Do you think that like you know, other teams have just more people in their coaching staffs that are helping them improve? Because obviously right now we only really know like Freddie as your coach. We don't have that much information on like who else works for them. When you look at other teams like, you know, Mad Lions, you hear of like Peter Dunn and Mac and like and their analysts, and then you know like Duff and everyone from G2. Like, do you guys have a smaller coaching staff or? Like,
yeah, we have Freddie, right, as the main coach, and then we have Bloom again as the assistant coach, and we have our analyst Nico.
Yeah,
and then we have two sports.
Not the Pico, for anyone thinking, not the Pico, just Nico.
Not Nico the Pico, no.
Yeah, there you go,
just Nico.
Thank God.
And then we have two sports psychologists, Isma and Bernie.
Okay.
And they're all really helpful, and they just make sure that we are improving as much as we can, right? And yeah.
What do you think of that topic, like the sports psychology one? Because obviously the big problem is it's presented as like it's just going to magically fix everyone and make everyone clutch and never lose any game. Like, what do you think the benefits of like working with a sports psychologist are? Have they helped you personally?
Yeah, they for sure helped me. I mean, they have a very different view, and they have a lot of different small tips and tricks, and you have a good talks with them about different stuff. And sports psychologist is for sure very helpful because, I mean, I learn a lot from them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's exactly, because I've never heard of a team having like two different sports psychologists. Like, do they do different aspects, or is it just like players have different ones they work with? Like, how exactly do
One's just dedicated to Finn permanently because he's just tilted. So, no, obviously, yeah, go on, tell us what you think about it.
Wait, can you ask a question again?
Well, since you have two of them instead of just one, like, do they do different roles within the team? Like, how do you manage to have two of them in the team? Like, what's the concept?
Well, they just work together, and yeah.
So okay, so they just pretty much have the same role.
Yeah, they just come in, right, I'm in, they'll go.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like how that would be more effective, because you think that like, you know, if you're working with the same person all the time, like I'm just thinking about it like as a player, right? If I'm having to tell two people like my things, like that would just be less efficient for me. So I was just trying to say like in what way
we have two, right? And Isma is the more vocal one, the one that you talk to most. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Oh, maybe it's what you mean.
Bernie is like more assistant to the main sport.
Right, yeah. I think he means it's more like coaching staff, Dom. Like one leads it, and then the other one maybe just talks with him, and they work
exactly.
themselves. Yeah,
like
instead
assistant kind of.
Yeah, there you go. Plus, to be fair, that whole topic, like one of the areas people never bother mentioning about that is a massive part of it. It's the same as if someone like, it's the difference between if you chose to go to therapy and if like the court in America told you have to go to therapy. Like the person in the latter case might just be like, right, well, I'll just do it because they said so, but I'm not going to learn anything. They can't change me. If you chose to go, you want to listen to that guy, you're receptive. Like I can think of some players where, I mean, I'll give you a classic example, Dom, would be like Soaz. I don't know now, but up until even a few years ago, if you'd have made Soaz go to a sports psychologist, you'd be like, this guy is fucking, he doesn't know what he's talking about. That he wouldn't listen to anything the guy said. He'd just sit there the whole time like, yeah. And at the end, he'd just like be like, just wouldn't have changed at all. But I guess maybe younger players are more open to that because they've sort of grown up in these teams with these people. It's not like a late addition.
Yeah. Well, I think it also comes down to just personal stubbornness, right? Like, if you're just a stubborn person, it's going to be hard to fucking change your mindset on things like that. And
so depends on person, right?
Yeah,
also depends on the sports psychologist as well, to be fair. Like, if they come in and they're really cool, that's one thing. If it's like Weldon Green and he just jumps out the shadows, you're like, you will sleep. I am the Weldon Green man. Like, that might be creepy, believe it or not. And it might lead to your team being the worst in the LCS, just saying.
But also on the point of our coaching staff, it's like, people don't know, right, what's going on in the team. It's like just...
Hard to guess, though.
Wild guess.
Yeah, of course.
They're definitely not like justified for the blame. It's mostly on the players. But during the spring, they for sure could have been more harder, strict on us. I think we're a bit too soft. So that's something we improved a lot on this summer. Now we're like way more strict with everything we do, with like routines and times, and
interesting
that we take the scrims 100% serious.
Was there
what they do is just to make sure that we have productive scrims, right, and productive reviews, and that we're up to the meta and that we have good drafts.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I wanted to add, like, was that, like, I guess, dip in seriousness because you look at, the best team in your region, G2, and you see how they take things. They seem like they're, trying to have fun with the game, etc. Like, is that why you guys adopted that approach and now you're becoming more strict, or is it just like you just didn't know what worked for you guys because you guys were such
honestly players? I think because G2 were so... Honestly, I think it's because we try to mimic G2 a bit with being more soft and being more chill, having more fun. But
too much fun.
I've got a question for you, Larson.
You need to have some strictness, right? And also need to have some freedom. It needs to be a combination. So.
Yeah, you've got to have a bit of give and take, sure. I've got a question for you, right? So in your team, you've got 2 Swedish solo leaders. And Swedes, I mean, as anyone's seen on this show, if you've ever seen a show with Finn, they're a little bit more laid back, They're not as vocal as certain other countries. Now, Poland... All I'm going to say is the word kurva. Like, they like to get a little bit aggressive, if it. Yeah. They like to, if they die, they're screaming about shit. They blame teammates like a motherfucker. Like, is there any of that with Inspired? Like, it's a different relationship? Is he a bit fiery?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, he's a very loud kid, always screaming. It's very, very different personalities, right? Me and Finn are very different from Inspired, and Vander can also be a bit loud. Just... how they are as Polish and how we are Swedish.
Yeah.
But you just need to embrace it, right? So.
Yeah.
What I like as well is that, like, him and Finn also represent the 2 different polarities of Swedish people. Like, he's just a normal nerd guy who's just, like, good at games. He just likes playing games. Finn, every time you see him now, is ridiculous. He's always wearing, like, a sweater with no T-shirt underneath, going, like, sucking in his cheeks, trying to be like a male model or something. He thinks he's on, like, the streets of Stockholm or something, mate. What the fuck?
I don't know. I don't know enough about Swedish people to actually make
any comment, Larson?
Sometimes I make fun of Finn, but
fair enough. Right, there we go.
It's a bit funny with all the memes that Finn is so hot and.
It's true.
Like that. Sometimes I feel like he's posing a bit for camera and stuff. So then,
yeah, exactly. You can tell he's not doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes he's a bit try-hard in front of camera with like how he looks and stuff. So.
Yeah,
but, everyone is different.
One thing I wanted to ask you, half joke, half serious. Okay, so we've seen Kane. I don't know if you actually watched the TSM game, but we saw Kane coming out of Spica for TSM, and you guys have one of the best. Yeah, I can see your face right there. You remember how that game went, but I mean,
yeah,
I a little breath in, didn't he?
Yeah, no, it was a fucking disaster. But anyways, like. Inspired is known to have like an insanely good blue cane, right? Like when you talk to people from US solo queue, this guy is just like top of the ladder, like one of the top ranked players, and he just spams blue cane and it looks like he pops off every game. Where is the Inspired blue cane on stage?
The champ is fucking useless. So yeah.
So how is he so good at it?
Sometimes it can be good. It's not impossible to play it on stage, but it's a very situational champ. And in solo queue, it's kind of OP, right? Because you just run around the whole map with blue cane and just kill everyone. But in team game, it's completely different. But let's say enemy team have a lot of squishes, then it can actually work to play the blue cane because it pressures the whole map. But
does he want to play it?
Yeah, he definitely wants to play it a lot. He loves Kane.
Okay, cool.
But I remember one time last year in Ultra Liga, we played Kane. Mm-hmm. And it took like 29 minutes until I had a form. And from then, I just had like bad memories of Kane. And then you see Spica playing it and Kanabe played it, and yeah.
So Larson's a serious guy. Larson's
Isn't
serious
that the
man.
problem with that champion though? Like that, it's like one of those ones where yes, if it goes like to all the max build, it's going to be so insane, it's going to just dominate the whole game. But isn't it like an example of a pretty balanced champion in the sense that like if you can't get in a team game going, you're just useless completely, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that
Is that balanced though? I mean, either it's like pops off or it's like completely useless.
That's Riot balance, mate. You know how they go. Like their joke is like if Ryze is mad OP, you just have to the counterplays to ban it. Like that's Riot. That's a Riot balance games, mate.
Just wait for the rework. I mean, I think that Kayn just in general is just not suited for pro play unless it had something where it was like you automatically get your form at a certain level or like a certain like timing. Like I just don't think that you could be able to do it because
if you could more reliably get your form, I think it could be a good champ.
Yeah,
maybe make something like you can trade, like because obviously you know, like for example, like O'Day, for example, the ultimate's obviously just another ability. Like maybe make something where you can do a trade off, like you can get the form earlier, but you weaken some other way, some shit like that. You know.
I mean,
what Inspire does is always just suiciding to enemy laners.
Yes,
and then it says good F, guys, good F.
Yeah, no, that's literally
the laner has double buffs, and it's not a good day for me, but he's very happy playing his Kayn, just getting that form.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've heard that Spicker does that, but he's not even playing Kayn. So
yeah, no, it's
my bad.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just his Kayn tendencies. I think that's actually just how the champion functions, and I don't know if it could never work because people like have to just accept that that's part of the like suiciding for form is worth it at a point. Like if you can give one kill but you get your form, that is like a worth trade-off regardless of like whatever is going on in the game. So
I mean, if enemies doesn't get more than one kill, it's worth, I would say.
Yeah. What is the max?
Even though your laner is not happy, like I'm not happy if my mid laner gets a kill, but
yeah, that's the question then. If you want to do that, Dom, like let's say that becomes the tactical way to do it in the same way as in the past people used to like suicide Sion at the beginning of the game and all that garbage, right? If people wanted to do it, what would the conditions be? Like, should you try not to suicide to mid, for example, to not make their mid super strong? Can you only do like X amount of deaths, like 2 deaths or something? What do you think is fair?
It's timing based. It's literally just timing based. You have to really. So the thing that's so weird about Kayn is like the orbs are so they adjust the orbs, right? But they never actually tell you how much they adjust it. They're like, so we've like increased the amount of orbs you get pre-level 4 and then decrease them after level 11. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, can I get some fucking numbers here? Because like you like as a Kayn, it's all just like a feel thing. It's like, oh, I think I got enough orbs off that trade. Like it's kind of ridiculous like how you feel playing the champion. So I feel like unless they standardize like. It's like this much damage will get you this much, like this many orbs, or like at this timing, it's like optimal to like try to suicide. Like it's really just a guessing game of you're like, okay, I'm suiciding and I'm hoping I do enough damage. The worst thing that can happen is you fucking suicide, you're off the map, and then it's just like, it gets you that thing where you're right next to the transformation and then you start pinging it, it just says very near transformation. It's like, what the fuck? Like how the fuck, like how am I supposed to know that I'm one orb off? It's just such like a ridiculous premise. So I mean, I think that's just the weirdest thing about playing it in general is there's no like science to it specifically. It's just like you know like, okay, well, once they hit like the later on it goes into the game, the more orbs you're gonna get for dealing damage to enemy champions. But the fact is
there's a point in the game where the game's just like, I'm close, keep going, and you're like, come on, how long is this gonna fucking take? Like
yeah, pretty much.
On something in my mind there.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's literally exactly what it is. It's just at some point you're like, okay, it's 25 minutes. I better just fucking get the form. Like you just like
shit in here. What is this shit? Oh, sorry, yeah, get the form. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's fucked. But I just wanted to bring that up because obviously we just saw quite possibly the worst Kayn game we've ever seen in professional play, and you know you guys probably have the best pro Kayn player on your team. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. Okay, so one of the teams I want to talk to you about that I've been thinking about for a while is Origin, right? Do you like how good do you think they are? Because they look hit or miss this season. They're obviously like known as the super fucking boring team. People in my chat were even memeing before you got here that it's like, oh shit, his scrims are taking so long. He must be scrimming against Origin, you know? So so like how do you view them? Like I know 4 teams are going to Worlds this year. Do you think it's going to be you guys, Mad Lions, Fnatic, G2, or do you think that like Origin is still like really strong even though their style is kind of like weird to watch? Like how do you view them as a team?
Origin is definitely still strong. It's just a few stage games that went bad for them. Okay. Seems like they played worse than in spring though, but I can't judge so far. It's 2 small games. Mm-hmm. They're still strong, that's for sure. And
what about the style?
About the style?
Yeah, like is that like, you know, obviously like listen, Origin staff themselves get really mad if anyone says that meme that they just play for late game and scale in and they're boring. Like I think that's not true, but like what would you say?
I mean, they're definitely a slow team, right? we're also a bit more to the slow side as our team. So I don't blame them for having a slow style. That's who they are. Yeah.
Do you feel like they're a cohesive team? Because when I look at Origin, I feel like they have a really good AD carry and a really good top laner. I'm like, Upset's insane and Alfari is insane. Then everyone else, I'm just like, do they even like synergize well? Like, how do you view them as a team? Because to me, they're just like a team with two isolated superstars. But that's not as scary as a team to me as like Mad Lions, where it looks like they're actually like more of a coordinated unit, even if Arome is significantly worse than Alfari, etc.
I wouldn't say it's more scary to play Mad than Origin.
You wouldn't say
I think
that?
it's about this. No, I wouldn't say so. I think it's about the same. I'm not scared of playing anyone, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, the Origin deserves all the flack that they get for playing slow and having two isolated superstars or whatever. They're all. New York Tech is a good player. Xerxes is a very good player. Destiny is a very good player. Honestly, like Destiny surprised me a lot. He played way better than I thought he would.
It's better this split, sure, yeah. I've got a question for you. Are they different in scrims than they are on stage, OG?
I wouldn't say so. They're one of the teams in scrims that are always very serious. There's not as many kills and deaths in Origin scrims than in other scrims. Mm-hmm. So
I assume when you play G2, it's just like a bloodbath, and you guys might just smack them one day, and you just can't even take anything out of it. It's like, were they even playing serious or not? That type of like vibe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, that's the most we're getting out of him.
Like, we're not actually from the FBI. You know, talk show, mate. Like this, you know, you will not be arrested, and you do not have to play the Fifth Amendment. It's all right, mate. Don't worry. Oh, yeah, what about this? What is Fnatic like in scrims? Are they different? I could have mentioned some of them playing a bit more aggressive in scrims.
Yeah, they're not very different. They're very aggressive on stage, and so they're also very, very aggressive in scrims. Yeah.
Do you believe they could beat G2 this split? And as in to win the split?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
Because you guys are going to be the ones that are going to beat G2 this split.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say it. Okay. I was coming to it.
All right.
I mean, I don't think they're good enough. Yeah, that's not. If they win, it would be like last year. They will almost win, but now.
I'll be honest. After last split, it seems so hard to believe that Fnatic's ever going to win until you see it, right? Because that was pretty much like the dream scenario, right? Like they looked like they were the favorites coming into the series against G2. Obviously, G2 dropped to Mad Lions, and Fnatic was just pretty much dominating the league. It just maybe like for me, it just seems like they have a mental block against that team. You know?
Oh, I think so. And also, listen,
they might have. Yeah, I have no idea. They might have.
Also, listen, I'm not going to
look like it from outside.
But I also feel like their team is unfortunate that they're like, in theory, right? Listen, obviously Nemesis is a good player. He's just not the best mid, in my opinion. And the problem is, as I always make the case, it's hard to win LEC if you don't have the best mid lane or a really fucking insanely good mid lane, because it's Europe. Everyone's got good mids. So mid difference can be a problem. And then you also add in, go on.
I agree with it. Seems like a kind of big mismatch in the mid lane. So I'm a mid laner, right? So that's why I think Fnatic won't win, because I think kha'zix is quite a lot better than Nemesis.
Yeah. And then even though, like, I actually think to their team, Reckless suits their team very well. Just two of the key, like, power positions are just generally more on the conservative end compared to, like, the thing with G2 is everyone plays really aggressive. Like, I feel like G2 just stylistically is a bad match for them. That's why, actually, here's the real scenario where Fnatic could win the league. Like, it could happen, obviously. They don't have a 0% chance. But the chance for them to win is that, like, a Mad Lions or, like, listen, I don't personally think Rogue's going to do it, but let's say Mad Lions or someone else beats G2 and then Fnatic just plays them. Of course, Fnatic could win in that scenario. But I agree. If they have to go head to head, like, I don't see it happening personally. I would love to see the Rogue Fnatic matchup though, because I actually think like that's a very interesting like player for player matchup. Like it would just be like a battle of.
We're playing on Friday.
Okay, I mean in the best of five though, you know, like I want to see like
the fights are always more fun, right? So.
Of course, like the battle of like who's going to int first in the top lane, two aggressive Polish junglers. Obviously, big difference, you win that one. You know, bottom lane is just all about the supports, and for some reason, people never shut the fuck up about the AD carries. But yeah, that's all my opinions that I'm going to pretend like we all agree to. No, of course not. I'm just being biased.
I mean, I think that would be really weird. For some reason, Rogue just your team's drafting actually sometimes like really just boggles my mind. And like there was a couple drafts that stuck out to me. I mean, there was one do you remember the Talia Renekton draft where you guys drafted Talia Renekton Draven in the same team comp?
Yeah.
Like what happens in drafts like that? Because I see like Rogue has those things where from the outside it just looks like a draft error, right? You have two lanes, like you have a top laner that wants to be played around, you have a bot lane that wants to be played around, and then you have like a Talia that wants to like, obviously gank in the early game. So like, how do you guys like arrive on some of those drafts? Like, do you just view these champions as different? Do you view it as like, hey, like Renekton Talia doesn't like when you play Renekton Talia, the Talia doesn't necessarily have to go top. When you play Draven doesn't need to be played around. Like Draven's just a strong champion in isolation. Like Khansam is a good Draven player. Like, is there something that like the people that are watching these games are missing when it comes to those drafts, or do you just view it as like, hey, draft errors from us sometimes?
Every team does drafts after errors sometimes.
Of course.
Right? But in this case, I think we liked Renekton a lot at this point. We thought it was like the best top laner and maybe like one of the best champs in the game because we first picked it, I think, some games. Mm-hmm. And it was against Ornn, I think, as well. So it's not like Renekton needs a lot of help from Tala against Ornn. Like Renekton will just get a serious lead by himself, then we get Blade and just stomp Ornn. So it's not like he needs resources against Ornn, I think. I think it was against Ornn.
Yeah.
And then Tala could play around bot, right?
Yeah, we saw the dive.
Game where we level 2 dive?
Yes, that was the dive.
So, I mean, you can't really blame the draft when we die on level 2 dive bot. Like 2 people died. Yep. When you're playing Draven. Obviously, that's like complete over if that happens.
Mm-hmm. Draven just the counter to Kalista or what? Like, I don't know.
I mean, it's also like the Hansama special, right?
That's I remember in scrims, we were diving bot lane level 2 almost so many games before. Mm-hmm. But then we just completely failed it on stage, which was quite sad. And then we never did it again.
In your team, another thing is like a classic narrative is people have kind of put Vander into like the Mithy Afro Moo category where they're like, oh, he's like the mind behind the team or he uses his veteran experience. Like, what's Vander's role in that regard, do you think, beyond just being the support player?
It's not like a Mithy. I don't know if Mithy ever had this role. I guess he had. But in our team, it's not like Vander is shot calling or it's like the sole shot caller. It's like everyone shot calls together. Sometimes I lead the game, sometimes Hans leads the game, sometimes Inspire leads the game. It depends who's strong. If I'm strong, I will lead the game, or if you play for me. And the same with Hans. So It's not like Vander is like the brain of the team.
Yeah.
When you keep saying...
He's smart about the game and he learned us a lot, but yeah.
When you keep saying like, if you give me the resources or if you give me the champions to carry, like if is a big word, right? There's a lot of things we can talk about if, right? Are you actually a guy who's like, give me the champion I want, like give me it now and I'll carry this game? Are you like that?
I mean, clearly not. We saw him play Ornn in playoffs, right? Final game was on Ornn, right?
I know, what a way to go out as well on Ornn for fuck's sake. Yeah. Are you like, give me the ball, coach, I'm going to win this game?
Yeah, if I have a champion I think would be good this game, I will tell him to first just pick it to me early.
Okay, there we go.
And sometimes you don't have a champion like that. Like in some teams, maybe I don't want to pick a certain champ early, so then I don't have a champ like that. So it depends. But yeah, definitely I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think against last split, I just told my team to just, pick me as hero. I think at the end of the split, and it worked out. So, yeah.
Interesting. I remember the Zero games, but I mean, it just ended up being like a Zero versus Corki a bunch of times, didn't it? So
isn't that his meta? You must be liking that meta, is it?
I actually think that's a pretty good meta for you. What do you think?
Well, that's what people say, right? But I don't mind which meta it is. I can play any meta, I think, as good as any other. Mm-hmm. But right now, Zero Corki is quite strong, right? And some other champs like Orianna.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, I would assume though, like
last year when Summer Split, it was like Akali, Irelia meta, right, and Ryze. Then I was playing those champs, right, and I was playing a lot of Akali. It just depends what's the best right now.
I mean, the problem, Dom, like this is a serious piece of analysis as well. Like I'm going to give everyone a little lesson in how to play mid lane now. Like the problem I have is when people play Corki and that Corki is meta, everyone thinks it's boring, right? And they just think, it's just sitting, just farming all the time. Like obviously with the package, Corki can do some mad players. Like if you actually have like the vision for it, like I think Perks is pretty good at this. So the point is, if you want to be really good,
wow. Larson, how come you're smiling every time we bring up the package?
If you listen, when you play Corki, you have to know how to use the package. But the secret people don't know is if you concentrate only on the package, then you're not going to be good. You've got to have the balls to go with the package. See, if you only concentrate on the package, you've got to work the balls as well. You've got to literally that's the secret to it, basically, is what I'm saying. So let it sink in. It's like a deep point about the game, really, if you're kind of philosophical in a way.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I didn't really understand it, but
a lot of the young guys out there don't know about the balls. They just think it's all about the package still, but it isn't. That's the point. I'm saying it's essential, but don't forget it. It can enhance the whole thing. And also your love life. That's weird. Why did I bring that up? Anyway, whatever. Sorry, keep going.
Yep. Wait, what were you about to say about the package?
It's like the office or something, isn't it? Like he just plays it so straight the whole time. Like, it's awkward, isn't it?
I mean, on a serious note, I actually believe that like Corki is significantly stronger now with like the initial damage on the package, the initial
Pretty
slow.
good.
Yeah, it was a massive buff to him. Like the package buffs are what made him really strong right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
jokes aside, on a serious note, people do forget about their balls when they're making love, so that's also a good tip as well. Just listen, if you're out playing young, you heed my advice that the whole world could open up to you. I'm just saying. But anyway, back to the game.
All right, thanks for a tip for it.
It's all right. It's all right, man. I might come in
this is what we have Thorin on the show for. You know?
I know. We've all got our special.
Love life tips. Well, I'm focusing on League right now, so.
All right.
Maybe in the future.
Exactly. One day.
That's what I like to hear, you know? I mean, all I'm saying is right now you're playing better than Finn, and Finn's the one that has the girlfriend. Like, might there be a correlation there? Who knows? Like, who knows? So
girls win esports players?
Yeah, I mean, hey.
The Crumbs video.
I'm just saying TSM hasn't been looking too hot, and I know Thorin's really like.
They were orgs in that case. Like, normally it's just a player. Like, they're just taking over the org. It's crazy, isn't it?
Do you watch NALCS at all?
There is like they've mistaken their Discord channel for a Tinder app. Like it's a different. I know it's only your phone. It's a different one. That's just one over. Just move it over. Yeah, you know.
But back to the question, Larson.
TSM.
Yeah, we'll go to the point. If I watch NLCS.
Yeah. Do you follow like Cloud9 at all? Like any of these teams? Do you watch it for comedy?
I mean, I watched it way more before. Now it's kind of boring. Last split, I watched it quite a bit. It's kind of for fun, right? For comedy, as most people say.
Yep, true.
Get out.
He's talking something out of the camera there.
Vander's disturbing me like
It's because you have to know, Vander's one of those guys, right? When he's on shows, he's loving it. Like, he's loving a little bit of attention, you know, because obviously in his teams, like, Jankos used to get all the attention. Everyone used to go, oh, Jankos is brilliant. And Vander was like, I'm helping. And he's like very out of, like, the Hobbits or some shit, you know, no one cares about him. He's not Frodo or Sam. And so the thing is, he always secretly wants to be on the show. But if you ever ask him, like, half the time, he's just like, I don't know. I think we have a game this week. So, you know, game every week, you motherfucker. That's why we do the show. Go on the goddamn show. Like, another thing about rogue players, I'm just going to tell you straight up, is people in LEC have got to stop doing that thing. Like, well, come on, if we win all our games this week, it's like, brother, none of y'all are in G2 and Fnatic. You ain't winning all these 2-0 weeks. Like, we've got to have you on shows sooner or later. Like, just do it if you're not on a losing streak. How about that? If you're 0-4, I get it. You might not be want to talk about it. If you go 1-1, you know, we're not going to roast you. Just come on the show.
They won 1-1 last week, didn't you?
1-1, yeah.
We did. It's not all bad, but
could be better, but.
So when you look at like, so since you've briefly watched NALCS, it's like, do you think that G2 is actually, or sorry, do you think that C9 is an actual team that could compete with like G2 Fnatic? Like do they strike you as a team that's like actually strong, or do you just think it's NA strong? It's like, I mean,
it's really hard to say, right? They're stomping every game, so they might be really good. But I remember when Harfis was in EU last year, before the split started, they were not looking very strong. They would be quite bottom tier team in EU. Like,
oh, for sure. But they're a bottom tier team in NA right now as well.
They were kind of fourth team, no? Last split or something.
So they were third in the regular season, and they ended up being like fifth in playoffs.
Terrible in the playoffs.
Yeah, they got shit on by TSM. So
I'd say they're maybe like the 7th or 8th best team now in NA, but they're not good, certainly, yeah.
I mean, Cloud9 could probably contest for Worlds, right, in EU. That's what I would say. I wouldn't say they make Worlds for sure, and I wouldn't say they wouldn't make Worlds. But it's really hard to say, yeah.
Here's the problem, Dom. You know, classically, I mean, we've talked about this in the past. Like, I always try to be fair to NA, and I say, like, listen, there's a lot of, like, European players, Feathervin's a great example, who went over there really thinking, like, these guys are garbage, I'm going to style on them. And it's like, he did some games, but he definitely weren't as good as he thought you were going to be. But the problem is, right now, the player that I think is ruining the credibility of LCS, if you're European, is Jizuke. Because everyone just sees him popping off all the time in LCS, and then they're just like, well, like the Midlands who think they're better just think, well, I would do that even more if you just played around me. I'd be in one of the best teams. So I think it's making people like biased again, where they're going away from Cloud9 being good. Whereas, like, I have to say, from watching them just keep going and being good in LCS, like, they've never even dropped the ball at all. They've like, what have they ever had? Like, one bad game maybe ever? Even some of the games they lost were like from draft or something. Like, I think they actually are legit. Like, I have to say, the more I watch them, the more impressed I am.
Yeah, they're definitely legit, right? I mean, it's hard to say how good they are. It's so hard.
Yeah, sure.
Because you need to see them international to just.
I have a question for you.
I mean, Nicky is obviously smurfing, right? So.
Yes. Here's my test, right? You can't do the G2 Fnatic one because obviously people think Europe's better. The question for me is this. If Cloud9 played Mad Lions or OG, would they win? You think they'll be better than them teams?
I mean, honestly, I don't think so, but I might be biased because I'm from EU, right? But
yeah, fair enough.
I wouldn't. I would think they would lose, but they could win, but most likely would lose, I think.
I cannot see a world where a team like Origin beats a team like Cloud9. I just can't see a world where a team that's as slow and boring as Origin would be able to like play with Cloud9, because I think that the thing that Cloud9 is actually really strong at is like mid-jungle synergy. Like Niski is always on the map with Blabber. And when you look at EU in general, the teams that succeed have decent mid-jungle synergy, right? And I think that that's Origin's weakest point. Like Origin has really strong sides, and then they're mid 2v2. Like, when was the last time you saw fucking Xerxes just gank mid and just have Nuke Duck carry the whole fucking game? Does that ever happen? Like, I see him just playing like Trundle, like just being like a tank, and then you just have you just have Nuke Duck pretty much playing like.
What do you think of Nuke Duck, by the way? Because we never really talked about, like, we talked about Rogue generally. What do you think of Nuke Duck as a mid laner at the moment, Larson?
When I play him, it's quite good. He's one of the better minions to play, I think.
Well, I mean, how good could he be?
He hasn't had the best stage games, I think, and he's kind of old player, so people don't talk about him that much, I think. But he's definitely still a good player.
I mean, it's just.
I'll give you the pro tip here. Here's the tell on Larson I've picked up, right? He always says like just a couple of words first, and then if he breathes, that means he's going to say loads more. So what you've got to watch for is if he doesn't, he just looks in the camera, if he just goes like, and that's why he's good. That's what he's actually did. Like if he does like the burr out of whatever, like Sesame Street, that like if he does that one, that's the next question. But if he takes the breath, he can say more because we both keep reckoning on that, like jumping in. I'd say is this. Listen, I would give Zerx. I'm also someone who sort of like I think he's a bit overrated. But I tell you what, if he could handle Blabber, I would give him so much credit. Like I would love to see that best of 5 just to see what the result would be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that. Well, I mean, I guess what I would ask you is, like, if you look at Nuke Duck, right, and there's a bunch of players that you said are good but are not top 3, right? So, like, your top 3 is Caps, you, then Humanoid, right? And then you have, like, Nemesis, who's pretty good, Fabiven up pretty good, Nuke Duck up pretty good. I mean, at some point, one of these people is bottom half, right? Like, those are three players. One of them has to be bottom half. Like,
to be fair, Swedish people are pretty polite generally.
Oh, of course. But we're gonna ask the hard-hitting question: Is Nuke Duck a bottom half mid laner in the league? Is Fabiven are Fabiven and Nemesis just better than him?
I mean, now I need to think of all mid laners, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, the other mid laners, you obviously have Special.
I don't think it's a bottom mid laner. Like
bottom 5.
So.
Okay.
I would say maybe like 5.
Maybe like
what
5.
about the newer ones?
Or even 4 maybe, or 5, something like this.
Yeah,
like any of the newer guys, like for example, is that Zazie guy? Like basically, he had hype where like everyone says in like National League levels, he was always like on the radar, and people thought he was going to eventually come. Is he actually going to become a top player? Do you think? SK Zazie.
Well, he has a long way to go, right? I mean, everyone can become a top player. He's like.
No.
Maybe not everyone. Okay, not everyone.
I know the premise. Like, maybe they can develop. Yeah, sure.
I mean, he could. I don't see him as like a massive talent or anything. He's a decent player, but yeah.
That's the equivalent, Dom, of if Doublelift was like, he's absolute shit and he'll never succeed. I'm going to have to do the translation again like we do for the Koreans. Like, yeah. He's a decent player and I guess everyone can improve. So there you go.
Holy shit.
All right, well, fucking hell.
I mean, that's fact, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's an opinion, but yeah, I know what you mean.
That's an opinion, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess the person you'd compare him to is Melitza, right? Like Zazie, Melitza. Who do you think has more likelihood to succeed?
Probably Melitza by a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'll ask you a question, right? Do you actually think Special is going to make it long term in LEC? Because people flame him pretty hard, I've noticed in XL. Do you think he's actually in 3 splits from now? You think Special will still be a starter in LEC?
Kind of unlikely, unless he steps it up quite a lot.
Fair
enough. Not trying to hate on him, just wondered.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to like tell in LEC right now because there's so many like rookies, but it's some of the teams like I don't know when people are going to start losing faith in, because like people still trying to tell me that XL is going to end up like top 5, and I just don't see a world where XL actually gets their shit together. I mean, even if you just look at like XL's environment, right? You know, like they have the player cams into all the different places. You look at even Larson right here, right? He has the rogue microphone, the rogue background, and everything. Like the interview setup.
It's just a train wreck.
And when you look at XL, it literally looks like they're competing from prison. Like they're all just 5 people in a room. Like the fucking walls are just completely blank. It doesn't look like there's a fucking window. And then like afterwards, it's like, yeah, no wonder they're fucking losing. Like if I had to play there, I would fucking lose every game too. Like it's just so hard to see the improvement. You know, that team just seems so like dreary and dead at this point. But,
some would say XL is a prison for Young Buck. You know, after he was cast out from the Fnatic program. You know,
I mean, he's the one that everyone was giving hype, right? He's the one that built the roster, etc. So I mean.
Dude, without going on the whole digression, I still can't believe that. Like, I think I've told this anecdote before without telling too many details. I literally sat face to face with a key decision maker in TSM and told them, I guarantee you Young Buck is available. He won't be in Fnatic and there's not any top EU teams picking him up. You should just get this guy. Like, I never said like he's going to fit like perfect, but I said if you need someone to fix your problems, he's one of the best people you could get. And they no joke were just like, yeah. And then just did what they did. So
they're like, but we have Parth. So.
Yeah, turns out the only people they get from Fnatic are people who get kicked out of Fnatic in really dodgy circumstances. Anyway, keep going. So,
yeah, I mean,
I think I made that obvious enough. You know, put it this way: they sometimes get caught in the box, and then I don't know what the fucking abilities are called. I was trying to do a sort of whole like theme there, but I don't know the abilities for that champion. So whatever.
I mean, so Lars, I mean, you were somebody who grew up in from what you told me before the show started, you watched esports a decent amount. Like, is it sad seeing some of like the people that you probably considered great, like Froggen, Bjergsen, like how their careers are turning out, etc. Yeah, like how do you feel like when you watch these players, like, you know, that I'm assuming you looked up to at some point, just like start tapering out in the scene?
I mean, it's not that weird, right? Like. Mm-hmm. All players, or even in sports, like people have their peak and then become like worse often. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of expected. It's not. I didn't expect Bjergsen to be like a superstar middle like season 5 right now. So
really, okay.
I mean, kind of cool as well because I'm here to become that next superstar, right? So.
Holy shit! I actually like that answer.
Yeah, that's good. People don't realise if you actually know like reserved Swedish people, in his own way, he's a pretty confident guy. Actually, he's given some good answers here. You know, he just does the clever thing. By the way, if you do media, you just put a disclaimer like, well, you know, I haven't won the championships that they have, but yeah, I'm definitely better. Like, it's going 100% or individually. Like, I'm just not on his team. Like, oh, okay, well, fair enough then. Yeah, I guess you're better. So,
I mean, I like that. These players like Bjergsen were like superstars, right? They were really good, and you want to become as good as them. So. Mm-hmm. Like Bjergsen season 5, that's how good I want to become, right?
Yep.
Or even better, of course.
Bjergsen season 5, okay. So that's.
I mean, he was really good back then, right? Super.
Yeah, it's a monster. Yeah.
I lost that guy in multiple playoff series.
Only one I remember is like Faker, who is like stayed on top for such a long time and is still really good. So.
Mm-hmm. And even Faker is not Faker. Season 5, season 3, you know, he's.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say something like we won't make this a big tangent, but I'm just going to say it because one thing I hate in League is I don't like. Listen, narratives always will exist. Like I'm not arguing against them because narratives is just how you tell the story of someone's career and how you take like facts or details about them and make it all fit together to seem like there's coherent, like a line going through your career, right? But one thing I have to say is this. I actually have a lot of respect for Faker, and I'm definitely not pretending he's like Easy Who now and he just plays Oni Oriana or something. But you know what? It's been so many seasons since Faker was the monster that we all remember. Now the main impressive thing with Faker is his longevity and that he stays in a top team that keeps winning, right? Actually, individually, I'm going to say something that people might think is heresy. After watching the LPL for a long time, I think Rookie has more seasons where he is like the stud mid laner than Faker does in his career. Because Rookie, no joke, has had like 4 or 5 seasons where for most of the season he looked like the best mid in the whole world. Like I actually think individually he might have had a better career than Faker. Not as listen, obviously he doesn't have even half the championships. Like that's a different conversation. But it's like if you have like the Tom Brady versus like Aaron Rodgers discussion or whatever. Like obviously one only has 1 Super Bowl, but like skill wise, you can have that discussion. It's fair.
Yeah. I would kind of agree with you as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, Rook has always been really insane mechanically and individually, but Faker has always kept winning, right? So
yes.
So, are there any like are there any Eastern mid laners that you really look up to? Like, so for example, we had Niski on the show. He's really like tried to adapt things from Doinby. I mean, if you watch how he plays, he's literally like Doinby light right now. Is there any players that you watch? Like, do you have like a rookie or somebody that you watch play and you're like, damn, or like Knight or somebody who you really want to like emulate yourself off of, or like somebody that you watch consistently, take influence from?
No, not really. Before I was kind of a fan of Rookie Red. I'm still am. He's still really good. But I mean, if someone, it was Rookie, I watched a lot because he was just so fucking good mechanically.
Yeah. Are we talking like 2018?
Back in the day, yeah, 2018, like 2017, like 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, if someone played, it was probably like Bjergsen in like season 5 that I looked up to the most, or something like this. Yeah. Nice.
Is that why you adopted, just using your last name as the as your tag? Because you wanted to be like Bjergsen?
Not really. I mean, it's just my friends called me this name, so that's why I have this name.
Okay. I was trying to build a narrative there, but maybe if we saw TSM versus Rogue at Worlds, we could have been something like, this is versus fucking hero.
We can't, if you say that then, Dom, just miss the obvious meme that's been a scenario. So if you remember, a year ago, Larson, everyone was saying, mainly to fuck with TSM, obviously, like LS was saying, like, Rogue would beat TSM if they played them or whatever, right? And the thing is, the reason why that meme's cool is because then TSM had their times where they weren't that good, and then actually it looked like maybe Rogue is better now. Like, if you actually did play TSM, or you had back then, do you think it is like, would TSM have beaten you? Would the experience all factor in?
It's not even that. Would you have beat them 8 out of 10 times when you were 4 and 7?
I was gonna say it. We were gonna beat them 8 out of 10 times. Like,
actually,
no joke. Yeah, actually, I think so. Yeah.
God damn, that was something that I went really hard against.
Just because how weak and I looked, and we actually felt pretty good as a team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 8 of 10 times for me would be like kind of accurate, but then there's like all these other people who look at the TSM brand and some of the players, but they're
I mean, for me, the reason why I found that
Rogue was, everyone thought you guys were like a bottom feeder.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, Rogue was last place spring before that, split before that. So that
I guess the pushback I would have is like, you guys were a really inconsistent team at the time. So like, even if you guys were better, like you guys lost to like, I forget who it was, but I just remember going through it. I went deep into this, and you guys had lost to like bottom teams in EU recently at that time.
We lost to like Misfits. They brought in their academy team, and we lost to them.
Okay, yeah. So you guys had been losing to like teams that you were probably better than at that time. So I'm like, you know how much better you have to be than a team to beat them 8 out of 10 times? It's like you have to be just different caliber teams. And for me, it's like, okay, if you guys were 7th in EU, 8th in EU, and TSM is like,
well, we were higher, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Or like, say, I remember like at the time your record was like 4 and 7, 5 and 7, something like that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So it was more losses than wins. It's just when I see a team like that, I just can't imagine an inconsistent team being able to beat like anyone 8 out of 10 times. It's like, could you guys even beat Misfits 8 out of 10 times? Like, and Misfits was a fucking.
I think we could. Yeah, I think we could.
All right, well, shit, you would have had to go fucking. You would have needed to win like the next fucking. You would have had to go 8-1 because.
No, 8-0 because we lost to Misfits both times. That.
Oh, you lost twice. Okay, yeah, you'd have to 8-0 them coming up.
Here's the thing, though. Like, one thing I will say in LS's behalf on that angle is, as far as I know, like, I'm sure he probably did that thing where he did 50 streams and kept doing a slightly different version of it every time. I go, what I meant was, but listen, the first time I heard him say that premise, I understood it at least, because one thing I try to do on shows is hear what people are communicating, not necessarily the words they're saying, because that's a different thing, right? I understood that as him trying to make a point that stylistically, even a team that seemed to be in the bottom in Europe actually had the style that would beat TSM, even though TSM in theory was supposed to have better players. So like, that's one area where I feel like people were like too harsh. Like, for example, I basically did a softer version of that myself by asking if OG would beat Cloud9, because on paper OG is supposed to be worse, but the question is, stylistically, could they counter them, etc., more like that. So I will say, one thing people don't understand is, right, it's a very, very tricky thing to do, to make like not controversial, but provocative statements. Statements that like make people have to think or like react to something or get emotionally involved in it. That's very different. But the problem is it's very effective. Like that's going to be the top of Reddit. That's going to make that a discussion that actually might get the discussion you wanted. So I will say, I don't think LS is like an evil genius who sits around the cauldron like cocking up all this drama. But I do think his mind somehow, when he tries to make a strong point that he thinks only he's making, his mind just goes to examples that are like super extreme, and because he's trying to illustrate the point. But the problem is people always take that. People make it sound like he thought like Rogue was the best team to pick to beat TSM. Like obviously not. Like let's not get crazy.
Yeah.
Just a little rant.
I definitely agree with like the premise of that. I just felt like it was just really disingenuous. Given just like what we had just seen.
Let's be real. Like I'm just going to tell him, even though last night, like TSM probably would win some of those games. They might even win the series. Like I agree the stylistic point, but the difference is it's like on paper. I mean, it's like some of these matches that you see in playoffs. Sometimes on paper, you're the better team, and maybe even your style's better. But that's why all these like intangible things that sound like nonsense when we talk about like being clutch or the killer instinct and stuff like that stuff does sort of come into play in a series. You know, like we've seen teams after one game go mental boom, and a way better team just loses the whole series. It's crazy in that sense.
Yeah. Those are the things that I was considering, like assuming that these games are played on stage. It's like you have like a rookie team,
exactly.
And then like, and imagine if you just have like the premise in your head where you're like, shit. Like imagine if you go into series and it's not like, hey, we just have to beat these guys. It's like we have to beat these guys 8 out of 10 times. Like if you drop one game, you're already gonna be fucking panicking. Like that's hard to fucking deal with.
When I think about it, we probably won't win 8 of 10 times, but I think we're better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty small.
That's fair.
Here's a story that will describe exactly what I'm talking about. Right. I was once at a tournament like 2 years ago in CS:GO, and at the time, the MIBRs, a Brazilian team, was like one of the top. They were at the time they were like a top 10 team. They're not that good now, and they had in their team a player who's like considered like one of the greatest ever. He's called kha'zix, and he's a really sick player. And one of the things he's amazing at is he's like super good also in clutches, like 1v1s and 1v2s. And basically, when another player on his team was in a 1v1. Against another team, like a team with like younger players, he just said to his teammate, like when, like as he was dead, just watching his teammate. When his teammate was going for the 1v1, well, instead of just letting him play it out, he just whispered to him. So I heard this. He just whispered to him. He just goes, "Oh no, sorry, they told me this later." He just said, Noob's always choking the 1v1. And what he meant by that was like, let this guy make the mistake. Like this is a big stage match. Like this guy's never been in this position before. Let this guy, like don't play how you would normally play versus just anyone. If this was like you take the nameplates off, where you might go aggressive or you might think I have to rush it. Like just literally play safe in a way that like will let him like sort of soft into you, because he'll get so nervous or he'll think you're in his head and stuff like that's sort of the factor I always think happens in stage matches, that if you're a rookie, you can never be prepared for it. You've never been in that scenario. So you think from scrims and normal games like, oh, I'm good. Like I'm sure Misfits thought they were going to do damage in the playoffs, but you saw what they were like in the playoffs. They looked like they were just like ready. They had their bags packed by the door. Like, so I'll nip off there. It's like, it's game one. What are you talking about? Like, they were just ready to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually like, it's such a powerful thing, but I mean,
sure.
I think that's so CSGO. I can't imagine people like saying that in a League of Legends match. Like maybe it's different now.
It is. Yeah. It's also because in CSGO you have to remember every tournament you play is a LAN. Well, so if you're like a really experienced player, you've been in that scenario like 100 times. Even LCS player might have been in that scenario like 20 times. Like the Perks might have, you know.
Think about just how CSGO players are. I mean, every time I see a CSGO player, it just feels like they're just like, yeah, like fucking Jim, like CS:GO, pussy, like that's just like that's like just the three things that are like on their mind all the time, like just like some like really just like fucking brutish, like
maybe not the Swedish ones, but yeah, I agree, like the Brazilian ones, Polish ones, yeah, some of those. Listen,
American ones is the main ones that I'm referencing that I lived with. Like,
dude, literally, I'm not joking. Some of the top CS:GO pros in America are actually like that guy. Like, bro, it's on 9. It's like, mate, your arm's like the size of my entire head. Like, it's not natural. Like, shut up, saying that. Like, you are taking some supplements and it ain't G Fuel. I'm just saying, like.
But yeah, I mean, it just that's like what I see them as, you know. Whereas like league players are more reserved, you know. Like can you imagine like you look at every like CS:GO player, they're just like fucking tatted up now and like huge. Can you imagine Larson coming in?
Yeah, imagine if he came in right now with like face tattoo, whole sleeve, with like a samurai, like cutting a fucking tiger's head off, and then he's like, "Oh my God, yeah, I'm a mid laner. Yeah, just play games and that."
I could not see a CSGO pro coming in looking like Larson.
I'd love that if you did that, though. If you ever become like the MVP level player, just do that, Larson, because the level of intimidation, like you would jump from like a 5 to a 10 straight away if you just walk in, all right, boys, just permanently in that stance. Like.
Just think about it. Look,
would be kind of cringe, but yeah.
I mean, it might be a little cringe, but look at Reckless. You know, another Swedish guy came in, very young, clean cut, looked like you, and then. Now he's jacked out of his mind. Well, not really jacked out of his mind, but he got a little bit bigger and he got some
tattoos. Yeah,
he's got the tattoos. So
the only problem he has is, first of all, listen, I'm not hating. Like the font he chose was cool, but it'll just never be cool to have your own alias written on your arm. Like, if anything, it's cool if a girl tattoos your alias on her arm. That's cool. Like, you just did it yourself. And then the other thing is as well, like Reckless actually, by the way, if he ever wanted to market himself, I already know the angle he should go for. Since he doesn't like to do media, he should go for like, I'm like the stone-faced killer. I'm like Swedish to the core. Like I'm icy. I'm like, you can't beat me. The problem is that's not really going to work anymore if you've cried like 4 times.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to bring that up. That's exactly
what it is. At that point in time. Like at this point in time, you know, you're just a sensitive guy. You know, you know your feelings as a Pusha T might say or something. I don't know, Drake or something. I don't fucking follow all these rap that all the kids are into.
Yeah, that's like a Juice WRLD. That's a Juice WRLD right there. That's what that would be.
Flash, all that shit, my era. Yeah, exactly.
Jesus Christ, you're like the only rappers you know are like Rakim and like.
Yeah, exactly.
Slick Rick. Jesus Christ.
When's KRS-One coming out with a new tape? That's what I'm asking. The streets need that shit.
You really are fucking old. Holy shit.
That's actually before my era, but whatever. The joke works.
Yeah. We'll take it.
Do you have a favorite rapper, Larson?
Well, not really. I mean, I do listen to rap. I don't have a favorite one though.
Ah, fair enough. Okay.
Interesting. No, I was just thinking about it because, you know, before we got on air, Larson was like semi-roasting me a little bit. You know, he was like, yeah, you know, Vander's a fucking boomer. He's 25 years old. And then or like I didn't even know how old he was, but I was like, wait, like how old is Vander? And he's like, oh no, you're older for sure. I was like, all right, okay.
that's the soft roast, exactly. Yeah. He actually that's worse though, isn't it, Dom? Because like if he just came out like you're old as fuck, Dom, you'd be like, whatever, dude. Like, you know. But when they say it like that, it's like they just like snide the dagger in, like, oh fuck, you got me. Oh, Dark Knight Returns or something. Oh shit.
He told me. He's like, yeah, you know, I watched some of your pro matches when I was 10. I'm like, all right, man. Like, okay, I fucking get it, man.
I mean, you kind of said that statement, but yeah.
Yeah. Wait a minute. When you say that, like, listen, obviously you might have been playing League when you were 10. Did you actually used to watch like LCS when you were that young, though?
That's what it was.
Yeah, I was watching.
Yeah, he said he used to.
I mean, my brother and I was watching together.
Let's be real. You haven't admitted it so far. And by the way, if I'm correct, fair play. You've learned how to turn your life around and you're not a degenerate anymore. But if Bjergsen was your favourite player, just admit it. Were you a TSM fan? Were you actually a TSM fan, Larson?
Yeah, kind of.
Like, get the fuck out, shut the call down. Like, I told you, Dom, like, we're not doing this anymore. Like, holy shit, he was. I mean, listen, he was obviously young and misguided. And at the time, you know, he had a lot to learn in his life. We all make mistakes. I just want to say to the world, young men can make mistakes, but let us grow. As long as they eventually recant TSM and then understand that they would beat them 8 out of 10 times. That's all I ask.
Larson, have you ever said the words "fuck it, Baylife" in a game of League of Legends?
No.
Okay, all right. That's where we would have.
I'm happy for that.
When he was a kid, he used to have "fuck it," but like FK because he's so nice and Swedish. In like permanent marker, he had like a fake tattoo down his arm, like "fuck it, Baylife," like, you know, like Reckless. So
holy shit. All right. Well, I mean,
I barely knew what Baylife was, but I mean, I like TSM a bit, but it's not a.
I don't even really know what Baylife is myself, because here's the thing I don't understand, Dom, is as far as I know, they're not from the Bay.
Reggie is. Is
he actually from like the Oakland area or whatever?
Yeah, he's from San Jose. So.
Oh, fair enough then.
Yeah, so that's pretty much
right. Like, surely the Rain Man and Chaos and
hell no.
Like, they all on that shit. Like, that's nothing to do with them.
Yeah, I don't know. They just fucking adopted that shit.
That's some bullshit, isn't it?
It was their motto.
Like, hey, bro, Baylife. It's like, mate, you'd be in prison if you went there. Like, they'd murder you in like 10 seconds. What are you talking about, you idiot? You'd be in that trash bag just walking home, not even because you lost the scrims or whatever.
No, Rain Man isn't even the obvious one to go to. I mean, just imagine the odd one. Fuck it, Baylife. It's like...
Mate, the odd one's like Yoda or something. Give me a break. I say that in the nicest terms because everyone loves Yoda and I love the odd one, but... motherfucker, if he even does anything in real life, I'd have the expression of Luke when like Yoda raised that like X-wing up this morning. Like, holy shit, he lifted up a fucking chair. Didn't he seem like he has the muscle definition to do that? And he's got scurvy. Anyone remember that story, by the way?
I was going to bring that up. I didn't know we were going to go there.
That's the baddest story ever, isn't it?
That's crazy.
He should have played Gangplank, obviously. That's the joke.
Yeah, no, he did back in the day. Wow, we really fucking derailed this conversation. We've got to the point where we're talking about Oddone having scurvy on the podcast.
Time, you have to understand, we've asked all the serious questions. This is just the portion of the show where we just get Larson to awkwardly smile because we like to get a bit of emotion out of him, make him feel like he's part of the show, Yeah. He's not going to jump in and be like, yeah, you know what, fuck it, like Chaos. I used to think he was a dickhead, and if I'd never ever met him, I'd probably fuck him up. He's not going to do that, is he? So, we'll just do what we can. We're working with what we've got. Much like
you're giving me a smile,
yeah, we're working with what we've got. Much like when he has one of his champions and Inspired isn't on Olaf. You work with what you got. It's no point complaining.
Oh, believe me, that Talia Renekton game seemed miserable from your standpoint to play.
Dude, he's doing a good job. Like every time it really gets to him, because he just you can see the muscles. Like he just keeps it like. Yeah, I'm not reacting to that. That's not like whenever you mentioned that really painful game from earlier, he didn't react to that. I was like, no, that's fine. It was all okay.
Yeah, packaged into the fountain. It's fine. Happens to the best of us.
Do you ever rage, Larson? One time I ripped the whole fucking paper towel in half and dropped it in the bin.
I don't like punch my monitor like some people punch my keyboard or something like that. I've never done that.
Do you ever shout like "Fit the horror"?
No.
You like that? You like that, mate? I've seen enough Swedish, I mean,
that was a pretty good Swedish. Yeah.
You don't die and go like "Fit fan."
No, never. I think that in my mind. I don't think.
Right, there we go. He just rages in his mind, Dom.
Yeah,
it's like
I respect that.
Or some shit.
Self-control.
Yep.
I rather just.
When I was a kid, I always went to a pillow and was punching the pillow. Because that's better than punching my keyboard, right?
Yeah, of course. Oh no, that's one thing I never understood. Is listen, I know why streamers do it because listen, you get like when every time Tyler One smashes some up, obviously he gets way more pop off and people watch, right? But I did never understand because I came from a poor family. I've never understood getting mad at the game and smashing your own equipment up. Like when I have to buy more equipment, like that's my equipment. Like my joke is that's like getting angry, going out and keying your own car. And like you just fucked up the paint job on your own car. Like why would that make any sense? Like I guess I'm just different in that sense. I just rage.
I would be more angry if I destroyed my keyboard than losing a game. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that just a couple of the things that I've seen, like people just like destroying all their. I can't imagine ever getting away with that. Like if I broke my own shit in my house, I would be in so much fucking trouble.
Oh yeah, your parents, if they bought it as well, would be like, what the fuck? I just bought that for you. That's the reason why, by the way, I'm not joking. If people don't know, that is the reason why years ago it was SteelSeries was the first company to make the keyboard where the keys can come off and be put back on. Because literally, listen, sometimes pro players in CS tournaments or whatever would go mental if they lost the game and smash the keyboard off. And obviously at that point, like if you have a third place decider match to play after you've lost the semis, like you've got a fucked keyboard. So they actually literally made it, no joke, so you could rage basically. It's kind of dark that the keyboard company's like, now we've made your keyboard so it doesn't break when you rage. Like, Jesus, where are we going with this?
I mean, I broke my headset at an event, so I guess I'm not the one to talk, but it was out of excitement.
Did you go mental? No. Oh, right, you just won the game.
Yeah, we won. I was like, let's fucking go. And I took off the headset and I threw it. And, I mean, let's be honest, that headset is not very good quality if you can drop, like, how many times have I dropped this headset? Yeah. I just dropped the headset and suddenly, it just like exploded. But, if anything, my sponsors ended up coming to me afterwards and they were like, oh, there was so much attention on the headset. And they didn't really care that it like.
That's so dark in it.
Yeah, they didn't really care that if like it showed that it was in bad quality because it looked like I threw it pretty hard. They were just like, yeah, you know what? I mean, Sound Blaster, like we got a fucking plug. We got a whole clip that has hundreds of thousands of views just about you fucking breaking a fucking headset. So it was worth it.
Did you notice this? I couldn't believe it, so I'll just repeat the same joke I did on Twitter because not everyone follows my Twitter. Just kidding. Everyone follows my Twitter. But okay, right, on Twitter, I said the joke, right? The other day, Fnatic announced that sponsorship. What a sick sponsorship with Gucci. I can't believe they got it before Tyler won, though. You know that reference, Larson?
No.
It's too long to explain anyway. Just Google it. Just do like Tiger One Gucci. You're gonna have. It's a fun story, so you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it, man. Also, fair point. Gucci Hilla-san.
Yeah,
that would be the most expensive for sure. That would be expensive. Yeah, there you go. And he'd be rocking it in the most classless way ever because he comes from one of those like I'll just say dodgy countries because I've learned my lesson. He'd just be rocking it like some like bomb bag or something, like thinking he looked bag as fuck, What I love, by the way, is have you ever heard those? You know, Dom, that Fnatic puts out those like comms videos where you get to hear them.
Yep.
No one ever comments on those though. Like I know everyone loves to comment on like TSM's comms or whatever G2's comms. No one ever comments that every Fnatic comms video is like this. It's like Nemesis and Reckless, like back off, back off, back off, back off, back off. And then the whole time, Hiller's
like, good fight, good fight.
Yeah, exactly. He sees like one health bar anywhere. He's like, we can fight now. We can flash in and fight and do all like and it's like the battle of Hillersang and fucking Bwipo trying to either in or win the game, and Nemesis and Reckless just being like, I'd rather just save and wait for an 80-20 fight. Like, you know, like there's such a mad dynamic in that team.
Oh, it's actually like that. You know, Bwipo's constantly Bwipo's like, okay, I can TP here. Okay, we could go in.
Exactly.
Like, Hilly's like, it looks good. It looks good. It's a good fight. And then you just have Nemesis. It's like, run no matter what. If you see them, run away.
He's like, I've got the package. Escapes out of the fight. I love Hillersang though, because the problem is he really is like the ultimate player. Dude, he's basically now what Caps used to be. Like, people do overrate the Caps meme now. Hillersang is the guy who, like, he never met a fight he didn't like. Like, he just thinks all of them are good. And he's like, what? He's like that shit of like, kill them all and let God decide. Except that's like his own character in the game, apparently. Like,
yeah, true.
I mean, that's the beauty of Hillersang.
Oh, it's beautiful, yeah.
He's a legend.
Dude, I'm not joking. That game where he just went like split push Trundle, that is some fucking legendary shit. What a baller this guy is. What a G.
Yep.
I mean, do you respect Hillersang a lot? Because I always think he's really good. I think he's like one of the best supports in Europe. Do you respect him a lot? Because he gets a lot of shit, you know, when he just fucking ints randomly and stuff.
I definitely respect him a lot, but when he ints randomly, it's really funny as well.
Yeah,
I mean, he has some really crazy plays that just Hillersang can do, but he's a super good player, obviously, and I think a lot of reason Fnatic has so much success is because of Hillersang. So.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you the analogy, Dom. Here's the analogy, right? Because if you're American, you might appreciate that. If you know, by the way, the reason I make all the NFL comparisons, I've just watched it a lot the last few years, so I'm thinking about the game a lot. I'll give you a good comparison where anyone who knows the NFL well will get this right. You know the really sick, like, free safeties in the NFL, where they try to do it, where you literally try to, like, jump the ball when it gets released in like the whatever the fuck you call it, the hot or whatever. Like, when the ball gets, like, passed, right, you try to jump it so that you time it so that as he passes it, you can hit the quarterback immediately, right? You don't, like, react to it because you'd be slower. If you do that, right, nobody, I'm not joking, no coach ever coaches a player to do that, because if you keep running offside and jumping ahead, you fuck the whole game up and it's not worth it. So you can only let someone do that if they're just like naturally genius at it. So if someone actually is like a god tier free set, you just let them do it and you just say, right, listen, the times he fucks it up is worth it for the times he literally just shuts the whole play down. That's Hillersang, because it's not just that he makes like genius plays all the time. Sometimes he makes ints that like it's almost impossible to even int there. Like, I don't even know how he comes up with the plan to get himself caught on his own with a champion that can't even do anything and get killed. But you have to take it, because every now and then he will do the play like that where you're like, how did he even see that kill was possible? Like, that was the guy even on his screen? Like, he does also do some insane, like, just genius ones as well. Like, you have to take the rough with the smooth, as we say in England.
Yeah.
I
remember that guy though. Like, when I was in EU, every single game was Hilly difference. If when I played with him, he had this account that was.
Were you scared if he was on your team?
Oh no, I loved having him on my team. It felt like he's either gonna win the whole game by himself. Like, there's like 70% chance. He had an account that was like Svini Todd. I don't know if you remember it. He was playing like Pike only on the account. Yeah, so he would literally just play Pike only on the account. His name was Svini Todd, and he would literally just fucking either win the whole game for you like 70% of the time, or like lose the whole game for you. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna fucking full clear my jungle and we'll see what the fuck happens. Like, it seems like it's in my favor. You know, this guy is fucking smurfing, so I love playing with him.
It's a good flip, yeah.
There's a bunch of players that are good flip players, you know, like So he was one of the people that I definitely respected a lot from playing with him. You know, you might not feel when you're watching him like it would be good to play with a player like that. I'm sure that all Fnatic players like playing with Hillersang. I mean, just even look at that blitz hook he had in like the first week. Like, that's how many players are actually hitting that blitz hook. I mean, obviously blitz hook out of Lantern, it's not like impossible or anything, but
yeah,
come on,
it looked really nice at least.
Yeah, he hits those. That's a respectable
No, the
play.
thing is, Dom, that's one thing I've always misunderstood. Like, whenever everyone flames and tells their stories about how in solo queue someone like ruined the game for them, they always focus on the one when the guy keeps hinting and dying and you lose the game because of that. I find that way less frustrating than the guy who will never do anything. Like, when I play support, like the AD carry who just moves back every time so I can't ever heal him with like the Nami W, or like never goes in for the kill while I'm like doing mad damage to the person and I've got him ignited and everything. I find that way more frustrating. Like, in line with what you said earlier, I'd rather have the guy where, as long as I know that you're going to go in on moves, then we'll win and lose off that. Like, now I can play around you because I know what you're going to do. I hate the people where they just refuse to ever play, and they're like the fucking Garen split pusher who just ends the game like 7-1-4, and then you lose the game and you had no chance to win it. It's like, bro, like, that's way more cancer to me than just taking a lot of coin flips and losing in one game.
And you need a player like Hilly with a player like Reckless. I think that's a dynamic that you need in that bot lane, because if you put two Recklesses in the bot lane, you are never killing anyone ever, no matter what. Like, that is, like, you'll get a CS lead, maybe you might get some turret plates if you're in a really good lane, but like, Hilly's gonna fucking kill people in that lane. So definitely respect him a lot. I actually think he's like one of the players that it pisses me off when they get shit, because I'm like, this guy is so fucking good.
They flame him too much, don't they? I know.
Yeah, like, it's just because he has incident. It's like Hilly int is a meme, but then the problem with those is like when those become memes in the community, some of the people saying it are not at fault, but then like eventually people just start believing him, like, no, Hilly's actually bad. He's such an inter. Like, they need to replace Hilly. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, who are you replacing?
Collapse without him. Yeah,
who are you replacing Hillsong with? Like, anyone would want to play with a player like that. I mean, he's got to int for a while for you to actually start like considering anything like that. Like, because right now he's still like a positive flip. But yeah. Anyways, I guess we'll end the show there, unless there's any topic that we've missed that you'd want to talk about, Larson, on the show. Obviously, the ball's in your court. You're our guest, so if there's anything that you
is there anything you need to set straight? Is there anything in the community you just know?
Any wrong community?
Do we just talk nonsense and you want to tell us or something? Is there anything you need to say?
This is your moment. You can go for it.
Nothing that's on my mind, no.
Okay.
Nothing that pops up.
All right, fair enough.
Sounds good. Well, it was a good episode. It was good talking to you. This one was a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit extra flame. Thorn was on one today, so,
All right. I know when I have to take the ball and run, it was a running back game. I knew there wasn't going to be a lot of, pass players,
So we had to we got to watch Thorn flame for 2 hours straight. So that'll be the content for today.
Basically, like, this could have literally just been me and you, Dom, and then he does a react video where his camera's just in the bottom left and he's just reacting. That is quite funny that he said.
It's like, wow, these guys are really old and delusional. Crazy. Like, all right, well, it was a good episode. I had a good time. I hope you enjoyed your time here. We talked about Rogue, LEC, LCS, etc. Thank you for coming on, obviously, and thank you for everyone that was watching. I know that Twitch was bugging out during this entire episode. It was going like 3K views to 100 views. The whole platform was dying or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that the VOD should be up. The video should be fine, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next week on the Crackdown. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, GG, mate. Tack. Peace.